winning in a dominant 32-move fashion as black. Nepomniachtchi has given Ding little to prepare off of. Nepo has played sparingly over the board since Madrid, dropping just one game at the Sinkfield Cup and playing in only one other major tournament. Fresh, rested, and with World Championship experience from his clash with Magnus 2 years ago, Nepomniachtchi is considered by many to be poised in a dominant 32-move fashion as not black. Named Carlsen in over a decade. Has given Ding little only to prepare time will tell. Nepo has played sparingly over the board since Madrid, dropping just one game at the Sinkfield Cup and playing in only one other major. Fresh, rested, and with the longest game in any World Championship match was 136 moves. That was the famous sixth match game of the last Carlsen-Nepo match. That's where the wheels really started. In over a decade, has given Ding little to prepare will tell. Nepo has played sparingly over the board since Madrid, dropping just one game at the Sinkfield Cup and playing in only one other major. Fresh. Advantages. We always seem to talk about this like it's deterministic. This is how things had to happen. But guess what? If Jan had saved the sixth game, do you think there's any merit to the idea that that match might have looked completely different?
Yeah, obviously, absolutely. And I feel there are two Jan Nepomniachtchis. There is the one that is playing incredible chess and is one of the best players in the world. The one that can challenge Magnus Carlsen on equal terms and put a lot of pressure. But then there is the one who collapses once things don't go his way. But you have to understand that things have to first not go his way for that to happen. So if the entire tournament or a match goes without any major issues for him, from start to finish, he might just play very well on sort of one breath. He's not known for his comebacks, but if there's nothing to come back from, he will just be there and he will just win. And that could have happened, yeah. That game 6, in fact, if you remember, it was not just that he could save it. He had multiple opportunities in that game to even, and I think things could have gone very differently. It's a good point you bring to our attention.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean Magnus isn't the superior player. He obviously is. Magnus is the best player in the world, but we know that these matches. They can go in unexpected ways because there's so much more at play, no pun intended, than just the playing strength taken in a vacuum. In the meantime, F3 has been played by Jan, and Ding, he says, I like that idea. He plays the same type of move, F7, F6. Of course, the idea from Ding's perspective is different than the mirror image. Jan played F3 to open up the D1 square for his rook, to cut off Black's bishop on H5, which no longer controls D1, to create a pawn chain. Why did Ding play F6? And now Yepo plays H3. So some pawn play on the king side. What do we make of this?
Yeah, I liked it. As I told you before, this H3, King H2, I mean, I love the construction here. Nothing can ever touch the king. Jan doesn't rush with knight e2, knight e4, which feels right. I think H3 feels very good. Now, the move F6 is just a move. Not too much to say about it. I should mention we skipped an important moment here. This particular position, all moves are similar for Black, apart from one. There was the opportunity to go for F5, which is a very interesting idea. And after F3 or H3, there is F4, intermezzo.
Oh.
And, okay, E5 would be a strategic mistake. Okay, also tactical mistake and a strategic mistake. Even if, let's say, you allowed White to go for F4, this would be really bad for White, since the knight on E6 is beautiful. His pawns are blocked now forever. What White probably would have done is taking on F5, then you can take with the bishop and protect the knight. Have some counterplay against C2 pawn. Change the pawn structure.
I'll tell you why I'm laughing in a second. Because Ding just played H6, by the way, the same move that Nepo played. But please continue. This is obviously a very serious candidate move. That Ding probably didn't take too seriously given the speed with which he played bishop H5.
Yeah, and I think that was a big moment. But once you skip that moment, once you choose not to go for F5, then yes, you can just make commentators happy and copycat each other's moves, or or not. Or I mean, these small useful moves, they are not of equal value. So with every f3, f6, h3, h6, every little consolidating move, white is gaining something. He's getting closer to consolidating the big long-term strategic advantage. So I'm pretty sure that when f3, f6, and h3, h6 happens, it is Jan that gets happier and happier with every such move. Because if you get king h2 and you go king h7, I go rook c1 and you go rook c8, you know, I go knight e2, knight e4. Like, I am coming closer to my end goal, to get my desired position, which is to trade the right pieces and establish a one-sided advantage. Whereas black is actually just standing and waiting because black at some point runs out of ways to improve his position. So I think that this the fact that they copy each other doesn't mean that the position is equal. I think it gets nicer and nicer for Jan with every move, in fact.
Well, it's almost like, to make one of my usual awkward analogies, it's like Jan has more money, invested in the market, and then they each put the same additional amount in, but obviously that additional amount, it compounds because you had more money invested initially. So maybe that's one way to understand it. When you improve your position, the side that's better to begin with benefits more from that improvement. And King H2 has been played by Jan. So we have transferred the play completely from the center / queen side to the king side. And now 3 moves in a row improving white's situation on the king side. F3 and H3 we kind of decoded. So H3, King H2, that's kind of one unit. What does that accomplish exactly? Is that to make the king safer? Is that to prepare something aggressive? Or is it just sort of one of those surface level moves that can't possibly hurt?
Yeah, I think I don't think it's a preparation for something concrete aggressive. I don't think f4 is really ever on cards. I'm not even sure, even if you get f4, f5, I don't think it improves your position at all. It only weakens your e4 pawn, if anything. So I think this is just a way to safeguard the king now, and look at how incredibly safe and untouchable this king is. If it was on g1, there would be some check, potential check opportunity. But on h2, there's just no way you can ever touch that king, and it's so wonderful because black cannot say the same, because after king h7, bishop g6, it's not quite the same. We have various ways to get to the king eventually. Now I think these moves were automatic so far, but it's the next one that will be of the next one that will actually determine what Jan wants to do. And I think he has the choice of either getting himself ready for a rook trade or this knight trade. And I don't know which path he will choose, but either way, it's just very pleasant for white, I believe.
Is there any chance that black plays g5 in response to knight e2? Just way too drastic.
I think this g5 idea... Yeah, but let's say we inverse the move order just for argument's sake. I think that... I don't know about you. I guess it could be a matter of taste. The bar didn't flinch very much, but I personally think that this is an unnecessary further weakening, because you're not going to attack, right? Or you say that you could. Maybe you could.
Nah. Too many weaknesses to begin with, I feel like. Black is just operating from an unstable base.
Yeah, exactly.
And white can initiate too many trades really quickly with rook 81.
Yes, and I feel that there is this sort of rule, don't play, which is also, by the way, very ambiguous, and you should not abide by it always, but there is this rule that says don't play on the side of the board where you're weaker, and I think this sort of probably applies here. But again, yeah, this is very abstract. Not sure. I think g5 is not going to happen. I don't think that's the approach. Maybe to go back to this f5 idea, g6, f5, I do like the fact that we would be able to target the c pawn. I think black should be happy to generate some sort of counterplay that has to do with something on the queen side. So I guess bishop g6. But then you wonder why he played f6. In fact, so it was here. Yeah, you could play h6, h3, and bishop g6 if you're so pleased. So
if you had wanted to play f5.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know why you play f6. But mainly, as we've said,
slow to procrastinate when you're on the defending side because nothing's going to happen to you on the next move. So it's not. It maybe lowers the temptation of playing a move like f5 or executing an idea like that. When you're getting attacked, you know that you have to act immediately. Here, you're still solid. You still got your knight on e6. So it's suffering, but it's bearable suffering for the time being.
Yeah, it's hard to say if it's what's better. On one hand, there is indeed no pressing questions that you have to answer, and you know that you can't go much wrong right now. At the same time, you do know also that the problem with that is that sooner or later there will come a question, and it's going to be a hard question that you'll have to answer, and you just sort of delayed. The effect is delayed. You know you will suffer, not on this move. On one, you will suffer long. If not, and at some point there's going to be a question. At some point, Jan will ask him a question like, "What do you play?" And Ding will have choice of 2-3 moves, and he has to pick one, and only one will be right. But for now, yes, you can for now postpone that moment, and you can play rook to d7. You can, I don't know, put pawns b6 a5 or not, or put a king to h7 or not, or bishop to g6 or to f7. Or price of moves now is not high, but something at some point will happen to you, and so you shouldn't relax.
Yeah, the White Walkers. Winter is coming. The White Walkers have been spotted, and right now the players kind of crossing their T's. No, I always get this expression wrong. It's dotting your I, yes, and crossing your T's, and presumably they kind of will continue to do so for the next couple of moves. Many, many ways in which Black could try to build up a more robust defensive foundation. And we will take this opportunity, Ding, taking it to adopt his new usual sitting position in the rest area, kind of continuing to meditate on the best way to continue defending. Folks, we will take a short break. You're watching the FIDE World Championship 2023. It's Jan Nepomniachtchi against Ding Liren here in game one. We're almost 2 hours into the first game. Don't go anywhere because there's so much more action ahead. We'll be right back.
This right here is how I use Chessable and why. I've been using it for a long time. I mean, if you look up here, I actually have my streak. It says 1,231 days, right? You're gonna forget a lot of the things that are in the book. Chessable came around. When I got on Chessable, it's literally, I was already doing that. So this is now a game changer because I can do it faster. It's online, it's in front of me. All of my books are here. There's gonna be folders now so I can categorize by white, black, and tactics in game. But I literally have everything in one area. As you see, I'm scrolling here. This is why I like this. So they're like, how many Chessable books you got? I'm like, all of them. How I use Chessable is actually, I do a lot for the opening training. I do tactics on here. I do calculation. I do in-game. I do everything but the database. All my training on here all the time. Chessable is the wave. This is why I like to use Chessable. It's actually helped me. I remember even online, I was only like capping out at 2350, almost 2400 and Blitz and Bullet. My chess comm is 26 with a high of 2774 in Bullet. And I blame all of this, like success, really, it's just working on Chessable. Just being honest with you.
Welcome to Check with Mates, the only podcast by chess pieces for chess pieces. I'm a rook, and I'm a pawn. Let me ask you this. You ever feel like you're undervalued? Absolutely. Everyone's like, oh, pawns, they can only move one square. They can't go backwards. Maybe we don't want to go backwards, you know? Maybe we're focused on the future. Yeah, I feel that. Sometimes I wonder why we're even protecting a king. He wasn't elected through a democratic process. Maybe I want to be king. Dude, I think about that every day. Yeah, Okay, real quick, shout out to our sponsor, HelloFresh. I don't use them because I'm a chess piece, but I'm sure they're great.
I do recommend Meetup to a lot of my friends that are looking for different things. Wine tasting, movies, book club, meet a lot of new people, a lot of new friends, and it will make you more social.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the FIDE World Championship 2023. It is Jan Nepomniachtchi's second appearance here in the most prestigious event. He lost to Magnus Carlsen in 2021. This time, he tries to defeat Liren to take the chess throne. This is the first game, and we are only 19 moves in, so all of the action is still ahead. Grandmaster Anish Giri, world number 6, and GM Daniel Naroditsky, world number I don't even want to say, bringing you commentary today. We hope you're enjoying the show, folks. Once again, you got to keep your seatbelts fastened because it's only going to get more fascinating from here. Anish, I think you put it best during the break. It's almost like you can divide this game into phases. And I'm not talking opening, middle game, different types of phases, faster and slower. We've entered kind of a slower, more chill phase.
Yeah, absolutely. Not so much happening, not many forcing concrete lines. Both sides are, black is mostly waiting, white is mostly choosing which pieces to trade, which slightly better position to go for. And eventually things will implode. But one thing I should mention now, especially for Dink, is I believe in a position like that, which is eventually going to get unpleasant, a mistake you could make is to spend too much time here. Because no matter what move you make, you're not going to be able to equalize. So you shouldn't also get down on the clock. At the same time, you shouldn't play too quickly because that will set up a wrong habit of, get you out of the playing rhythm. But I think, especially playing against Jan, Dink should not overdo the time spending and just make some move. Maybe play Rook d7 and don't overthink it.
I had a more general question on the broad subject of overthinking. From your perch on, the Mount Olympus of chess, I think fans in general are really interested in the question of form and how top players decide and determine form. How early in a tournament would you say you feel pretty certain about whether your form is good?
Notice that you are either in a good form or a bad form, or rather, you sort of think that you notice, and that impacts. the way you play. Whether that's good or bad, I don't know. I think it's more often than not isn't very good, because when you are thinking you are in a bad shape, it hurts your confidence. That means you start adjusting your otherwise pretty well tuned values. You start to be maybe more defensive, which is really bad. Or you start to play slower because you double triple check stuff. You start to play more passive for some reason. You become even less ambitious. So I think generally realizing or thinking that you are in a bad shape, it's a big issue. But inevitably, I think players do. You just see how the game goes, and it just gets in your head. And it could happen as early as game one, if the game one goes really well or really badly. It could also happen much later if the games are pretty neutral. If, let's say, today Ding will defend pretty well, he will think that, okay, he's in fine shape. Opening didn't go well, but everything is okay. Whereas if Ding loses, he will think that, okay, it's just... well, I mean, even if you are in a good shape, if you lost, it's a problem. So losing is bad news. When it happens after round one, or it just depends. Sometimes, you have games, not like this one, where just not much happens. Somehow the players meet each other in some theoretical battle, and then they somehow don't make big mistakes, and the game sort of pitches into some sort of a draw. And that could happen for 1, 2, 3, 4 games. And then nobody knows who is in good shape. I mean, you can only tell that, okay, the memory works, some basic instincts are there, but nobody's in a great shape. Whereas today, I think we will see. We will see today, actually, who is in what kind of shape, because the game is already imbalanced. So if Jan will ruin his small advantage, then it's a bad sign for him. If Ding will not defend this position, it's a bad sign for him. So already something will come out. There will be some feedback based on today's game, because things are already imbalanced, and Jan is in a very good position.
Yeah, I think compared to some of the previous World Championship game ones that we've had, and decisive results were not uncommon throughout World Championship history. In the 80s and 90s, 9 out of 16 matches featured a decisive game one. So we might see a reprise of some of the old school matches where the players just went after each other. But one player who's not going after anybody is, of course, Magnus Carlsen. And I said this at the beginning of the show. We're not here to say things that everybody knows is untrue. It's a disappointment that Magnus Carlsen is not playing in this match. I think it's safe to say that it's an objective negative. It doesn't mean that this match is anything less than absolutely fascinating and that the title is anything less than legitimate. It is, and it is. But as we look at the Magnus machine and his 10-year reign of the World Championship title, and it still sometimes doesn't add up in my head that, no, Magnus is not going to be the world champion after this match concludes.
Yeah, we'll have to get used to that, and that's been the case before in history. It's not the first time. We don't have to look too far back. The last time that happened is when Magnus was world number one already for a few years, and the world champion was still Vishy Anand, who is a legend of chess, a great player. Certainly was the world number one at some point at various points probably in his career. But towards the end of his reign as world champion, Magnus was growing up, both in terms of his rating, but also literally growing up. He was quite early at the party, and he was maturing as a player, and already it was clear by the time (2010, 11, 12). Vishy was the world champion. Magnus was the world number one, and everybody knew that, best player in the world, probably Magnus. He was winning most of the tournaments. He had by far a high rating. But Vishy was a world champion. He was a legitimate world champion. And world number one and the world champion were two slightly different, entirely different people. And that is okay. That happened. And in history before, it happened many times. In fact, even when Kramnik has beaten Kasparov, he has proven that he is a legitimate world champion. He literally beat Kasparov in an incredible match. Still, following that, played many tournaments. Kasparov remained world number one. He won most of the tournaments. He was the best player in the world by all these objective metrics. But it was Kramnik who has beaten him and became the world champion. So such things occur in history. And we also had the case of Fischer, who walked away from chess entirely while being at the peak. So nothing entirely new, but certainly something we'll have to get used to, because indeed, for the past 10 years, we've had the best player in the world and the highest rated player in the world all in one, and the one with the best haircut as well. So it was just Magnus all over, and now we have to get used to some other people running the show.
Bishop f7 has been played, and we'll get to the move in a moment. I just wanted to ask you, do you remember the first game that you played against Magnus? Is that, something that you'll put in your memoirs years down the line?
Certainly. It was a very memorable game for me because I actually won that game, and I haven't beaten Magnus since that until just January this year in Vaikanze, and I think it was 12 years in between these two. So first of all, I'm really grateful that you bring back these memories. So we can talk about this topic for a long time. It's a very important topic in chess history as well. It was Vaikanze. Both times it was a Tata Steel tournament. It was my first year in the Masters group. It was called Group A at the time. And I was a player rated 2670. I think that is somewhere in the world, maybe top 70 or something like that. And I played Magnus in round 3 with the black pieces. So nothing was... nothing was suspicious about that. He was world number 1. I was playing black, so nobody expected me to do well there. Certainly not to win the game, but somehow things really went my way. I was extremely fortunate with everything. The opening went my way, and then he blundered inexplicably, blundered the piece around move 20 and resigned around move 23 or something. So it was an incredible day for me, and I won that game. And testament to Magnus' strength is that I haven't beaten him after that for years and years until I managed to beat him this year in Vaikanze again. And that took 12 years. So certainly, my relations with Magnus goes way back. And for the most part, it's been painful for me, of course, as he is the best player in the world. He has a plus score against... for a long time, because after I beaten him, I managed to make a lot of draws after that, not losing a game. I was lucky in multiple of those games. I was losing in many, but I didn't lose any. But of course, finally, the fact that he's a better player, eventually, it was you cannot be lucky forever. And sooner or later, I lost a bunch of games to him, and he's got this big plus score against me as well. And now, of course, there's no doubt that he's proven to be the best player in the world for so many years. But for this event, he's not there.
Well, your most recent game against Magnus and Tata Steel is, of course, what everybody remembers, but everybody will remember the 10-year streak that is now over, and it will be replaced by either the Nepomniachtchi era or the Liren era. Will it be an era, or will it be, a little segment, just like a year or two? That remains to be seen, and the result of the first game also remains to be seen. We've had a couple of moves played in the meantime, still very slow, nothing really changing, but we have had something concrete happen, something actually in the center, Anish, happened. So they've shifted finally away from the king side, again toward the center. A rook trade has been offered. So presumably Ding is seriously evaluating the prospect of taking on d1 and then putting the other rook on d8.
Yeah, let's look at it at the analysis board here after takes and rook d8. Now, indeed, this is a decision first by Jan to allow it, and then will be by Ding whether to go for it. I think, so one thing is clear, white should not trade everything but the bishops. Because if you do that, even if you win the c7 pawn, it's well known the opposite color bishop's endgame is a draw. As long as you keep some pieces on the board, it could be just queens or even just rooks, white will be significantly better. And whether the trade of rooks is I don't know which side it necessarily benefits. It's so hard to say. I think probably both sides don't mind it.
Yeah.
My instinct...
Mutually beneficial.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a natural follow. I mean, there is, what's very common is when you have an open file, the rooks get traded there. It's just like, it's like a gun that's there in the play, and it will eventually shoot. That's kind of the thing. Like the file is there, the rooks will get traded. And doesn't benefit anybody, but it just will happen. I had this, I don't know, my instinct was to go for the knight trade maybe first, but I'm not sure if that's the correct instinct. And also having traded one pair, Jan could not trade the second. And it's often very smart. Like one of the things we learned, there is this famous example of Vasily Ivanchuk in a game, and then also a few examples by AlphaZero.
You're talking about the game with Kasparov?
Ivanchuk's, I think Ivanchuk's example I have in mind is against Levon Aronian in position with against the isolated pawn. At some point, there's one open c file, and so it goes like rook takes c1, rook takes c1, rook c8, like in this case, trade a pair of rooks, and then another rook to d8, and then there's one open file. Suddenly, Vasily just moves the rook to like b1, like behind a pawn, where it's extremely passive, but he does so just to keep these rooks on the board, to reactivate it later. And we had seen the same in many of the games of AlphaZero, because previously the old Stockfish was programmed by humans, and humans input open files are good. So the engine is like, okay, open file is good, I bring the rook there. But AlphaZero has figured out, because it's self-learning, that open files are not always crucial, and sometimes you can give up the open file, because nothing will happen there, and it's much more important to keep more pieces. So there are cases, I'm not sure this is the one, but there are cases where it's beneficial for the side that's putting the pressure to just walk out of the trade. And in the meantime, this rook is better than this one. But in the future, as I regroup, I will eventually manage to activate my rook. So this could be a thing. But most likely here, the rooks will just get traded. And then, yeah, it's a question how the play will proceed. I don't know, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I mean, you brought up some amazing points about AlphaZero and Stockfish, which, there's a great philosophical discussion to be had. We're not going to have it right now, just about the sort of notion of spatial advantages. We think of an open file as an inherently good thing, but you could almost say that an open file is an illusion. It's just space. It's a square cannot be good inherently. You can, if you fast forward everything, why would a square be good? Well, it's because you're attacking something when you reach that square. So, you always have to kind of deconstruct your assumptions, right? You assume that an open file is good. You assume that squares in the center are good, but you always have to tie down those general considerations to the concrete, the specifics of the position. But my thoughts on whether the rook trades are going to happen, I think the answer is likely yes. There's just such a pull to take on d1 and play rook d8. It's just such an automatic thing that you do, as you're saying. If black doesn't take on d1, the question would be, is there a move that keeps the status quo and slightly improves the position? Maybe b6, as you're pointing out, to prevent queen a7? Is that something to consider?
So one thing indeed, maybe there is a queen a7 somewhere, maybe. And the other thing I was thinking about, it happens also a lot in these kind of showdowns or stand downs, whatever the word is, between the rooks. Now, especially when that happens, when both sides don't mind the trade, you might wait for a move. So you could take with black and play rook d8, but maybe if you choose to make a useful waiting move like b6, maybe white will take and play rook d1. And then you had gained 2 tempi. It's not worth much, because nothing's happening anyway, but it is nice. So maybe Ding is thinking, we will trade the rooks, but let's do it on my terms. Or at least let's wait. So what's likely to happen is that we will have waiting moves from both sides. Let's say black plays b6, white also plays knight e2, black also plays king h7. Both sides are waiting who doesn't want to lose the tempo on the trade. And that's certainly like the scenario.
Yeah, that's an intense situation. Normally, you could also make what's called a collinear move, where 2 rooks or 2 bishops are staring at each other on a file or a diagonal. It's a move that's on that file, but it's not a capture. So rook d2 and rook d3. I mean, rook d4, it would be a collinear move, not a very good one. But those types of moves are very common when you're trying to wrest control of the open file. Here, I think it's highly ineffective to try to play rook d2, for example, because it's going to have the opposite effect. Black's going to take and play rook d8, and you don't want to occupy an open file with a queen typically, because it can just get chased away with a rook.
But you do bring a very important point, and it is not relevant right here because of rook d2 indeed it takes rook d8, but after knight e2 that I suggested, then it's actually very relevant. Then you could play rook d7, because now after takes, there is no rook d1, because knight is not on c3. So you bring indeed a good point. So when this square is not protected, I didn't even know that word you used, what it was?
Collinear, and I didn't know it either until I read an article. Okay. I read some collinear, yeah.
Because I thought it was like colonial, yeah? Okay.
Similar.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm well aware of of the breadth of your vocabulary, so I'm here to learn. I'm ready for it. But yeah, indeed, this idea is a way to fight for the open file. There are multiple cool gimmicks. Like there's also this famous idea of Anatoly Karpov, where he had a rook on A1 and A file and some other file. Black had a rook on the A file, and somewhere he made this move. The A file was open, so these pawns were not here. And white played this move bishop to A7 in front of this rook to then comfortably double the rooks and then retract the bishop back and get that file. So there are all these nice little gimmicks and tricks to do with open files. And meanwhile, Ding just made a waiting move, and it's now up to Jan. I don't know if A3 is...
oh, God. Are we going to do the same thing on the queen side that we did on the king side?
Yeah, I'm not sure if A3 is
A5.
useful. Short term for sure, because you want to not see the queen appear here. But like if you think very long term, how do you want to position these pawns? Hard to say, because if you want to position them on the dark squares, they will be never attacked by the bishop. But then the bishop has this b3 square in the future that will control the d file, let's say. So b3, on the other hand, it kind of is like a granite for this f7 bishop. But at the same time, it might later get challenged by c4. So these are these abstract thoughts that you should be having here, because there's nothing short-term going on. I mean, a3 or b3, nothing like queen b4 or queen a3 is not a big deal. But just long-term, you have to think like, how do I want my pawns? What are the consequences? Just a very slow, abstract stuff, basically.
And Jan, speaking of abstract stuff, he is deep in some sort of meditation. Leaning back in his chair. Ding has not been at the board, virtually at all. I mean, he has made a home at the rest area. So the players, kind of revealing their habits early on in the match. It will be interesting to see how their habits change. But right now, big decision for Jan. Does he roll up his sleeves? Is this the time to play knight e2? Or does he keep playing the waiting game? At some point, he's the one who's going to have to press the button, because Ding is more than happy to screw around for a little while and make some improving moves. He's kind of waiting for Jan to press on the gas pedal and get on with it, start the tension.
Yeah, and when we were talking about waiting moves, I had an interesting thought. Okay, I don't think it's good here, but somewhere the move queen to g1 could make sense to reconnect with the rooks. I mean, here it allows queen b4, but let's say in a scenario like this, knight e2 takes rook d8. Here, most likely move probably is rook d2, using that same idea. But also queen g1 comes to mind. And in case of rook d7, yeah, then this move queen g1, it sort of might make sense. You could also consider taking and then going knight c3 back. Now you again fight for the file. But essentially, it's just a way to get a trade of rooks in a favorable version, pretty much. I don't know. I want this knight to knight e4, but it's my instinct to trade off the only piece that could potentially jump. Again, it doesn't mean it's a good move. It's just my instinct is to trade off this knight. I had a game recently against the Gukesh, was very similar. Opposite color bishops, and I traded his knight as well. I gave a lecture after that saying it's a great idea. I'm not sure it was, but this is how I treat these positions. But maybe there are other ways.
Well, it's clear that c7 is much easier to attack in the absence of the knight. So we can start with that basic fact. Also, just operating in the center, maybe e4, e5. If you trade the knights with the heavy pieces still on the board, maybe there will be some attacking chances on the king. And that's the interesting thing about opposite colored bishops, is the famous kind of double-sided nature of them. Take the queens off, take the heavy pieces off, very, very drawish. Put the queens back on, you have a lot of famous games. There's a Sparov-Karpov game where opposite colored bishops favored the attacker, obviously, because you have access to a whole uncontested set of squares. So the queen-bishop battery with opposite colored bishops is tremendously effective. Exactly,
and even rook bishop against rook bishop, and I'd noticed a lot of it in this AlphaZero game in the book by Matthew Sadler, I believe. He looked at these games, and there's a chapter there, I think, about the opposite colored bishops. And how many times and how many games a rook bishop against rook bishop is actually not drawish at all, and how many of them were won by the side that is pressing. even when the side is not an upper pawn like here, it just has a better pawn structure. And I had a game with Gukesh, that one I mentioned, and I also reached a position with rook bishop against rook bishop, and I was better, of course. I didn't manage to win, but I never could imagine I was winning at any point. And when I analyzed the game later with the engine, I realized I missed a win, and to my surprise, there were positions there where material is equal. We have rook bishop against rook bishop, opposite colors, and I have this deep tendency to believe that it has to be drawish because of this opposite color bishop thing, because you cannot trade rooks. But sometimes you'll just never trade rooks. And so not only queen bishop, but even the rook bishop can often be really, really huge for the side that's pressing. So I would not at all be bothered with white to trade the knights, because of course if you keep the knights on, the drawish tendency is a lot less. But I think trading knights is a safe bet here. I think trading knights would have gone better in combination with keeping the rooks on the board. So more conceptually speaking, I think my dream scenario would have been to trade the knights only. Get the bishop to f4, queen to g3, as I told you a long time ago. I don't need the d file. I think I don't need the d file. I think I prefer rooks, just to have them. I think my maximum for white would be to just trade the knights, keep the rooks. And as the game is progressing, I think they will trade rooks. I think it only makes it a little bit more drawish. But still, yeah, even if you trade rooks and the knights and get the queen to g3, hard to say. Even let's say we have to imagine I win the c7 pawn. We keep queen and the bishop. We go b5. I win c7 pawn. You will probably go f5 somewhere. We probably trade these two. Am I going to win that position?
So what are the constraints again?
So we trade knight. Okay, let's just
trade knights.
Do it. Let's just do it for fun.
I also wanted to look at knight d5, which is a tactical attempt, but let's look at this first.
Yeah. Because that's an attempt that sort of is.
And a3 has been played in the meantime.
Yeah.
So good call
so
by
that's
you.
skipped. Yeah, because knight d5 is an accidental thing. Let's say this is sort of a more conceptual. Let's just say, okay, I'll make some bad moves just for argument's sake. I will just make all these bad moves. I lose this pawn. Okay, this position. Are you going to win it with white?
I would call this like a classic 50-50 position.
Yeah,
maybe even less. Maybe 70-30 in favor of black.
Yeah, I would go with that. I mean, I played enough games with Hikaru to tell you that this is not a 50-50 situation. I mean, I haven't...
With white, I would be playing for a draw against Hikaru.
Yeah, I mean, this is a typical Hikaru position. I don't know why, but I had like a lot of games with Hikaru, which are like that. And he never loses. Just never. I don't know why, but position is just very drawish. And I think if we imagined rooks here, rook e3, e1, let's say, e2, e1, let's say, and black rook somewhere here. Oh, that is a winning position for sure.
Completely, yeah, because
So
e5 is possible and attacks.
So I think, I don't know what the engine is saying here, what are the short-term considerations, but I think long-term considerations are such that I think the trading rooks probably does not favor white because of this reasoning.
But by that reasoning, black should take on d1.
Yeah, but I think that will eventually anyway happen, so they're not... Look,
You're not rushing with it.
He moved the rook. Or not? Oh no, he didn't move. No, it's still there. He played a3. He just played a3. Yeah. Yeah. No, I think but the question is, of course, maybe white will not trade the second rook.
And then play rook e1 or Ivanchik style rook c1.
Yeah.
But rook.
Yeah, because that scenario that we discussed, one pair of rooks is enough to make it a winning position for white.
Right.
I believe. Two even better,
win
but
the
one is enough. Yeah, you have a rook on e1. I have a rook on. Yeah, I think I'll win this position with the rook somehow, because the rook will eventually
have many more chances.
Oh yeah. But I mean, I would estimate the position with the rooks on the board. I would just say it's a winning. It's technically winning position. I think black conceptually wants to trade both rooks, and situation is just very drawish.
Plus, something like a6, a5 would be consistent with what Ding has been doing thus far on the king side, which is to basically keep the ball in Jan's court and say, listen, if you make these, tiny improving moves, I'm going to do the same. But the fact that he's thinking, I think if he wanted to play a5, if he was set on it, he would play it immediately. So he's clearly thinking about the rook trade. my guess would be he's either going rook takes d1 or a5. I don't know why I'm so set on a5. It's
I
not
don't
like
think
white
A5
wants b4. Maybe it's a bad move. Maybe it's weakening.
You know, I don't like a5 because in that position we discussed, remember when I took the pawn on c7?
Oh, it's on a dark square.
Yeah, you could go b5 there, and now you would have to also get a4 in somehow. So I'm like hesitant. I'm not sure a5 is an automatic. I'm not sure it's an automatic. I think you don't. It's far from given. So I agree that he might do a waiting move, but maybe that move is a move like king h7, maybe king h8, because king h7 there is some ghost of a check somewhere. Maybe on h8 just to wait, or even rook fe8. You could wait. Not a useful move, but just a waiting move.
And maybe it prevents knight c5.
Yeah, so is this knight d5 thing? Knight d5 thing. Let's talk about the knight d5 thing. Is that here? It's not a thing, yeah.
Yeah, here the rook is undefended.
Yeah, so I can, the worst case, I can just move the queen and it's over, yeah.
I was thinking instead of a3, to be honest, and I actually couldn't, off the top of my head, figure out how to equalize after cd, ed.
Just rook fe8, just give back the thing.
A5 has been played, by the way.
Sorry, this is a blunder. But there is here, I can play king h8, I think.
I take e6.
Yeah, and then I think I can just, oh no, c7 is thinking, wait, but there is some move here. I think there's some move here.
Yeah, there must be some way to equalize. By the way, Ding has played a5 in the meantime, but
let's see.
we'll get to that in a moment.
You played a5, yeah?
Maybe rook d6. Maybe rook d6. I don't know.
Okay, sorry, sorry, I'm jumping too much. Let's just discuss that because that was actually interesting. Rook d6, bishop d6, queen d6. That's brilliant.
But king can move.
King h1, yeah. King h1, yeah. No, but here, okay, come on. This has to be some. There has to be clean. Rook d8, d bishop e6 is an option.
What about say that a rook d8?
Rook, which one?
What about queen c5?
d6 and queen e3 doesn't work. Doesn't work for white, yeah.
Because I take with the king on f7.
Yeah.
This gets ridiculously complicated.
Why is black not winning here? Because I have rook
because of rook takes d8.
Queen
oh my
c5.
gosh.
But it's not good complicated for. Okay, I guess ef rook d7 is a draw, and rook e7.
Or maybe white's already playing for a win. This just gets tactical over instantly.
Why are we talking about
let's go back to the game because
but it's interesting.
This will forever remain behind the scenes.
Yeah, but actually relevant, by the way. It could have happened. Knight d5 was relevant. There should be some clean thing. Let me think here. Just so curious.
You suggested moving the king, but that doesn't seem to, because the c7 pawn ultimately is a big weakness.
Yeah. That's not terrible, but I'll lose a pawn, so I'll have to suffer there. So the threat is d, rook d1, ef.
Check, right?
Yeah,
but
check. Yeah.
Solving the problem of that being check is still not enough because
So
because you've got other problems.
Rook d8. Yeah, I'm worried about some move like queen c3. Because d bishop e6 is okay. I mean, the thing is, it's anyway very little. Even if you win the c pawn, like just for argument's sake, even if I play king h8, which is bad, even if I do this, it's little. I mean, it's
even though rooks are on the board.
Yeah, but this kind of pawn structure is somehow not dangerous for black, and yeah, well, the king side is super safe. The queen side, you just have one passed pawn. This is not the dangerous one. The dangerous one is if white has the pawn on e4.
Right. No, because here the rook gets to c2 and black gets really active.
Yeah, this is just nothing. So the knight d5 was nothing anyway, and he just played the slow waiting move. And he did play a5. Yeah, okay. I mean, you could see like I'm thinking much more I'm thinking kind of very long term. Yeah. The players are a bit more concrete maybe, but somehow long term I am both skeptical about the rook trade and about this move a5. Maybe I'm reading too much into the position. And maybe while I'm thinking about some long term things, short term there will something concrete will happen somewhere. We'll see.
I mean, once you pointed out that the pawn on a5, imagine a white bishop on c7, black might lose a second pawn. I started to understand the drawbacks of a5, and not to keep coming back to this knight d5 idea, but all of the lines we just looked at with knight d5, that endgame that we ended with maybe is a little bit more promising for white. Probably still a draw, but I agree with that pawn on a5. it's a little bit more exciting. Even a rook trade could potentially be possible because with 2 extra pawns on the queen side, even an opposite colored bishop endgame without the rooks, pure OCB endgame, might be winning.
Yeah, exactly. At the same time, I just realized when we were talking about that, okay, the pawn on a6 is kind of in the air. So if I ever attacked it with queen e2 or something, it would probably anyway have to go to a5. Or maybe you could go b5. Yeah, I don't know. Move b6 also is not actually ideal in that sense. But b6, I guess, was played to prevent queen a7, yeah?
Yeah, but he did put 2 pawns on dark squares.
Yeah, this theme of, by the way, these pawns being potentially weak, it plays itself in a Berlin endgame. Sometimes you have this pawn on a7 and you get this Berlin endgame structure. White has a pawn on e5 and black has a pawn on f7. And then white plays a4, black responds naturally with a5. And then white goes e6, gives up this pawn and takes c7 and collects pawn here on the queen side. So this a5 being a weakness is actually an existing theme. So it could really be a weakness. Yeah, we'll see about this eventually. It's one of these moves that you make and then okay, knight e2. Yeah,
finally. So Nepo, he gets down to business. Knight e2 is on the board, aiming for the knight trade and choosing this opportunity to do so, clearly trying to punish Ding for a5, right? He waited for that move. Now he's trying to get, as you're showing, the ideal construction after knight f4, queen f4. I think the point I just made, Anish, about the queens coming off the board, it would be an unquestionable draw. 6. Now, who knows? Maybe it's still a draw. There's positions down 3 pawns where you have a blockade, unlimited number of pawns. But here, absolutely impossible to evaluate with certainty. I would.
Yeah, I mean, I would say 90% winning for it. Yeah, 90%.
Yeah, because the kingside pawns are also on dark squares.
Yeah. This I would be shocked if this is not lost. But speaking more concrete, in this position, black can play a move like a4, and this is no longer an issue. So this a6 pawn could sort of jump through a5 to a4, and then again it's all fine. This is again fine. So
blockade.
It could work out all right.
Wow.
Yeah, I think Ding will trade rooks. Yeah, I mean, what else? Why not? Let's trade rooks.
Now's as good of a time as any. I think after knight e2, white obviously threatening knight f4, going after the c7 pawn, but trading rooks is a committal decision. So that probably means a little bit more time spent for Ding, who has burned through over half of his clock, and they still have 18 more moves to make. So we will leave Ding to this very important moment. We might see a mass trade. Nepo is pushing for the win. This is basically a 2-result game. And we will take this opportunity to go on another short break. Folks, you're watching the World Championship 2023. It's Nepo, it's Ding, it's super hype. This is game 1, and a lot of the action is still ahead. We will be back with more action from Nepo Ding in just a couple of moments.
Hi everybody, International Master Danny Wrench here, Chess.com's Chief Chess Officer. We are here and excited to be collaborating and partnering with WorldQuant as an official partner of the Champions Tour in the year 2023. I'm now speaking with Chief Strategy Officer for WorldQuant, Natish Maini. The people have met us and now time for the big questions. Jumping right into the basics, tell everybody a little more about WorldQuant and what exactly is it that WorldQuant does?
Thank you for having me, Danny, and you already introduced me. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer at WorldQuant. WorldQuant is a global asset management organization. It was founded by Igor Tulchinsky in 2007. WorldQuant today has over 850 employees who are working towards designing investment strategies in multiple asset classes across global markets. WorldQuant believes in empowering the ideas of the talent across the globe, and we have 23 offices in 13 countries today.
Amazing stuff. So tell us now a little bit more about this project called WorldQuant Brain.
So WorldQuant is built on the belief that talent is global, but opportunity is not. And we strive to take this opportunity to everyone around the globe. WorldQuant Brain has been designed as a tool which empowers us to take that opportunity to anyone.
That's fantastic. Seriously, that's amazing. I had no idea about that. Learning about this along with our viewers, and obviously as as a website and a company with a mission to also connect global communities and increase the opportunity for chess that makes it even more of a natural partnership. Tell me a little bit more from WorldQuant's perspective why you guys run the IQC.
So WorldQuant has this mission of democratizing quantitative finance. And International Quant Championship is one of the tools we have to spread the message about this opportunity which WorldQuant is offering to everyone to be a quant in the quantitative space. And International Quant Championship empowers the individuals to utilize their ideas and show that they can do it, and gives us an opportunity to take this message to them wherever they are.
That's great. Now, you said the finals will be in person. Was I right that it'll be in the Bahamas? That sounds like a pretty great location. Can I come?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And I can? Okay. So I don't know that I'm qualified to be in the IQC, but tell everybody a little more. So the finals are going to be in the Bahamas. What will that be like for those who make it?
Yes, so the finals, as you said, is planned to be in Bahamas for the IQC. So WorldQuant celebrated its 15th anniversary last year in 2022. To celebrate that occasion, we are getting the whole WorldQuant organization together in Bahamas this year. And we decided that we will organize the finals of IQC at that event. So this will give an opportunity to our finalists to meet the WorldQuant team in person. It will give them an opportunity to watch the culture and rigor of the organization. And we are very excited that everybody will be able to get together at that event in Bahamas.
Well, this has been awesome. Nitish, thank you so much. This is where I remind everybody it's their chance to get involved in the IQC, the International Quant Championship. You can use the command IQC. You can visit the World Quant Brain website. We encourage you to do so ASAP. Registration is open until May, so it's time to jump in. And maybe you'll get to meet the CSO and others in the Bahamas. Maybe I'll be there. If I'm lucky. I don't know, but it sounds like a great time either way. And Nitish, the Chess World and the Champions Chess Tour, thanks World Quant for their partnership. And we're looking forward to the rest of the year together.
Thank you, Danny, and good luck to the community for participating in IQC.
To the 2023 FIDE World Championship. World Quant is an official partner of the Chess.com broadcast of the FIDE World Championship that you are currently watching. They are a global firm that builds complex mathematical models to identify market inefficiencies. Now, World Quant Brain is bringing together its International Quant Championship and the chess community to hunt down the next generation of quant finance specialists, because nobody knows how to analyze a position better than a chess player, right? If you think you have what it takes, register for the International Quant Championship. Head to go.chess.com/IQC or use !IQC in chat. Thank you to World Quant for being an official partner of this broadcast. We are Grandmaster Anish Giri and Grandmaster Daniel Naroditsky bringing you coverage of Game 1 of the World Championship between Nepo and Ding. The game has slowed down considerably. Anish, that has given us the space to talk about a lot of different things, to really look at the position from many, many different perspectives. But I feel like things are finally beginning to head in a somewhat, shall we say, more concrete direction.
Yeah, possibly, because now as the trade of knights is on the menu, at some point things get concrete, and you want to not lose the c7 pawn under bad circumstances as black. And I was thinking actually a little bit about what I said before, because I was sort of making a point of not trading rooks. But then I was thinking, okay, why did Jan not do it? And I realized that it was not so simple. So just perhaps it's interesting, because it is a big decision. So maybe we could sort of discuss what would happen if that wouldn't be the case. So let's say I go a3 first, b6, and now knight e2. Now black has the opportunity here to double on the d file, which does two things. First of all, it's just nice, because then rook maybe one day can penetrate. But the other thing is that after knight f4, if we do get this kind of position I was talking about, which is nice, No, I'm not going to lose the c7 pawn any longer, simply. So I'm just never losing
Permanently defended.
Yeah, exactly. So that was like a dream scenario I was talking about, that I would not trade rooks and win the pawn, but it just doesn't happen. So that was one thing. The other thing I realized is that with the rook controlling the d file, black has this idea of knight d4, which you wouldn't have if the rooks are gone. So while it was sort of idealistic to try not trade rooks, I do understand why Jan was open for that. And yeah, to be honest, I do like his position, but I do think now the draw is sort of a more likely outcome, because if we speak about concrete lines, let's say, I don't know, what is your thought here? Knight d4 or rook d8? What is the idea?
I think the sort of kind of stock execution of the idea is to play rook takes d8, queen takes d8, knight f4, but there actually might be something like queen d4, and White's initiative ends before it even begins, I think. I mean, you're not even getting to the c7 pawn here.
Yeah, if you indeed, if we look at it from a concrete sense, that's the case. And also just taking, honestly,
your idea, a4, yeah. Or
yeah,
whatever.
queen f4, a4. Probably you should take with the bishop here, in fact, and then do this. And probably I will lose that pawn. So let's say a4, queen f2. Let's say queen d7. Let's say king h7, and we've got this situation that I was talking about. The pawn a6, even better on a4 actually. Yeah, this pawn chain now only has one weakness, this c6 pawn. I think this is nice for white. I will play this forever, but I think draw is more likely here. So Dink indeed does take on d1.
Here they go, and rook to d8 is the immediate follow-up, offering a trade of the second pair of rooks. And my guess is that Jan, he's going to invest a little bit of time thinking about, you know, Ivanchik's name really stuck in my head as an example of moving a rook away from an open file. I remember my former coach, Gregory Kaidanov, at a US chess school lecture, he told an entire lecture on moves that involved forcibly moving a rook voluntarily away from an open file. Very hard thing to do psychologically, but could allow for more winning chances. There's that collinear move, though, that we had mentioned earlier. It seems to make more sense here, rook d3 on the board.
Yeah, very interesting. I noticed it as well. I was actually thinking about it. I am wondering, after rook d3, is the point to just grab the file, which is like very little relevance here? Is that the point? Or does he want to change the pawn structure with CD?
Spicy.
Yeah, as spicy as things get in this position.
c5 to clamp down on the d4 is why this was bad earlier, but now there's a knight on e2, which maybe makes this more palatable for white. Maybe f4.
Yeah, but I'm not impressed with this for white. f4 maybe because you get f5, yeah? I just need to somehow defend this pawn, because you're threatening f5 and queen f4. I need to reroute my knight to some square. Maybe that's like c6, e5, something like this, like knight d8.
Positionally, bishop h5 made sense, but actually, even though the knight gets to d4, I feel like white might be able to attack c7. Like f5, bishop e2.
Yeah, it's a beautiful move. I think that's good. I didn't see it. f5, bishop e2, yeah.
But
and then
still,
it's fine for black now, I think, more or less. You mean here and then back to... But at some point, I can also push the pawns a little bit.
c6, b5, a4.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Here. Also, I've got knight to maybe h4.
Yeah, with such a knight, you shouldn't be losing here.
I have queen d7, queen f4, knight e2 idea. Yeah, nice. It looks like black's position has improved tremendously. I don't think that's going to happen. I'm thinking maybe he just wants to recapture with a queen, actually. Maybe that's that thought.
And kind of make it hard for black to make a move. Obviously, queen d8 is impossible because you lose all of your queenside pawns.
Yeah,
queen infiltration of the queen side, right? The queen used to be on e3, threatening to go to a7. Black played b6, d3. Maybe black plays b5. I don't think so. I'm just, drawing a parallel.
Yeah. No, it's possible. I mean, queen a6 is not near as annoying as queen a7, because queen a7 was targeting the pawn. Now the pawns are protected, but there is this idea of going queen a8 and then maybe queen c8 and then maybe trading the knights like that, or after c3 knight d4, and then getting to the c7 pawn under more favorable circumstances with the queen on c8 instead of g3. So this is all possible. I think Jan has sort of taken a very stable route to a very small advantage. And it's understandable. His first game, he doesn't want to do anything crazy. He just wants this very small edge that he got. I think he's happy with the rook trade as well, and he will try to milk it a little bit. Yeah, I do like that.
We haven't talked about, the time situation all game. We remind you that the time control in the World Championship is very expansive. You've got 2 hours for 40 moves, then another hour is added to your clock, then another 30 minutes after move 60. But 34 minutes right now, it's only move 24. Black hasn't made his 24th move yet. Do you think the time situation is going to play a role, or is the position too simplified for that to happen?
I think it might play a role because if you have no increment, right? And no increment, that is always very stressful, as you know better than anybody, playing so much no increment chess online. Just lose on time. So that always brings that extra element, something to worry about. And he doesn't have much questions to answer right now. But by the time we approach move 30, 35, and by the time his clock approaches 10 minutes, maybe, that's when he will have to perhaps take a certain decision with black. He will be asked a question. C7 pawn will get attacked. And the time situation could play some role here. But as things go, I was very enthusiastic at first because white got an advantage. But now that I've sort of calmed down a little bit, and I look at how big is the damage that black has endured, I think I've liked white's position probably a little too much, and now I would fine-tune my evaluation to just better for white. But I think black is very solid, and that prospect of losing the c7 pawn, yet keeping opposite color bishops and the queens on the board, I think that is just still quite solid. And I think, with accurate play, Ding should eventually make it. But time is one of the factors potentially.
Quick correction, I misspoke. I said 30 minutes. It's 15 minutes added after move 60, and the increment only starts on move 60. So from move 60 onwards, there is a increment, and that is done in order to avoid flat-out crazy flagging. The 30-second increment is implemented past move 60, but flagging, very possible. You can't do what you do with an increment, which is you can leave yourself, with 30 seconds to make the last 5 or 6 moves. If you believe the position is simple enough, very commonly happens. Here, can't do that. And will we see any crazy flagging fests in any of these games? I mean, I won't complain, but you already know that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's going to happen in this game, but it is likely to happen eventually. And one other thing I wanted to mention, just sort of why we are here and why the game got kind of unbalanced, why Jan got an advantage. I think compared to his match against Magnus, his approach is just very different. I think he's just much more confident because there, deep inside, he and his team, they knew that if they get a playable position that is roughly balanced, the odds are not in his favor because Magnus is the better player. But here, he was much more comfortable going for a position that is little explored and full of life. So I think he allows himself more risk in the opening in this tournament, in this match, because this is just game 1, and already he allowed all these options, went for this position that is far from being forced. And I think that is a good sign for us looking ahead in the match in general. I think we're going to see Jan taking more risks than against Magnus, and I think that is correct, both what he did there and what he did here. And I think that there's just one extra reason to look forward to the rest of the match, because I think we'll see a lot of very interesting games as Jan is ready to go for more open fights after the opening and doesn't feel the need to be as constrained as he was against Magnus.
We talked a little bit at the start of the show about Ding's choice to bring Richard Rapport with him as a second. Very, who would have guessed, right? But we haven't talked as much about Nepo's team. Nepo's team is known to be vast. It's expansive. He's worked with Grandmaster Vladimir Potkin. He's worked with a lot of different grandmasters in various capacities, and he's been open about it. Some of them more moral support, like Ildar Hayrulin, his close friend. Others more, serviceable. They do the work they do the opening work and they analyze with him. I've also heard, Anish, that Nikita Vitugov, who's one of the strongest Russian GMs, recently joined Nepo's team. What do you think about Nepo's choice to have as expansive of a team of seconds as he does? Does that impact directly his decisions in the early going of this match?
Well, yeah, it's definitely it's a positive sign that you can afford to have a big team with a lot of knowledgeable players. You mentioned indeed. So let's name the names of the people that we sort of know that have been spotted as part of his team throughout the year. So there was, of course, Potkin, his head coach, matching against Magnus. Vitugov is here as well. Hyrulin, you mentioned, I saw him at the tournament with Jan. There was Evgeny Tomashevsky and some picture, a strong Russian grandmaster. I saw Maxim Matlakov at the tournament as well with Jan. And Peter Liko has been involved in the team as well. So that is already a lot of names. I guess not all of them are with him now, but certainly some of them remained. Some are new, as he said himself in the press conference, said, okay, things changed. So definitely some changes to his team. But yeah, it's of course, if you have one training camp, and you've got this many people, it might be a challenge to manage all of that. Also, the social aspect of it becomes like very loose. It might start to resembling a party more than a work environment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Especially if everybody's friendly with each other. Mm-hmm. While if you work in so that is there. But I think if you manage that well, quantity can turn into quality. And I think having more people, it just means more hands on deck, more input, different input. And I think Jan has definitely done a great job so far as assembling such a big team and having worked with so many different players. And they all bring something different to his game. You know, he worked maybe half a year with Matlakov. I don't know if he did, but let's say he only worked half a year. Still, he's got Matlakov's vision on the different openings, and he has Vitigov's vision on different openings. He's got Tomaszewski's vision, and all these people, they have different inputs. Maybe somebody told him there's something interesting in the Italian. Somebody told that there's some interesting in Spanish. Somebody told him, well, you know, there's an idea in the Catalan. So all these different people bring something new to him, and I think his team is one of his main strengths. And with Ding, we don't know as much. We only know a report, which was, as I mentioned earlier, very surprising. Like nothing like it's great, but nothing wrong with it, just surprising. I said didn't know where that came from, but with Ding we don't know. There might be also many people, who knows.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll be demystified as time goes on, particularly if he wins. It's kind of traditional to reveal at least part of your team. In the meantime, c5 has been played, a move that we considered after rook takes d3. Ding decided to play it immediately, and Nepo responds with queen e2, which I think confirms, Anish, your theory about which piece he was planning to capture with. Now, obviously, after rook takes d3, it doesn't make any sense to recapture with the pawn. Then why did you tuck your queen away behind the pawns? He's going to take back with the queen. What do you make of this early c5 by Ding? Is this possibly overly committal? Are there any... I mean, it weakens the d5 square, and White's knight can decide to change its mind. I mean, maybe knight e2 to c3 is conceivable, especially if black plays a4. So I think a4 is inadvisable because the knight hasn't committed to f4 just yet.
Yeah, I mean, again, another pawn on the dark square, we could start seeing disadvantages of that. But I think we should, not exaggerate these long-term factors. And okay, short-term, White is yet to trade the knight, and White is yet to attack the c7 pawn. And when it comes to d5 square, I mean, if you go by c3, you allow me to plant a knight on d4. So all that is quite abstract. And if ever White now attacks the c7 pawn, so in a hypothetical scenario, let's just make the moves just to illustrate the point I want to make. If this kind of thing happens, let's just, for argument's sake, I'll just make all the moves that I want to show. If this thing happens, I actually have an opportunity to save the pawn for now with c6. I mean, I might lose one later anyway, but I could, let's say, okay, just to illustrate it even better, I could play a4 here, and here goes c6. And if I had my queen already on e8, I would be able to save all of my pawns, That's the point I'm trying to make. So nothing wrong with putting a pawn on c5. If anything, it could even save you that c pawn. Not that it changes much. Anyway, it's a doubled useless pawn, but okay, it just shows that c5 is a very solid move. I think it's all right, yeah. And I think that the point of rook d3 was never to take with the c pawn. The point was just to get this sort of d file and force black to take, because if you wait now, I will take. You can no longer take with the queen. Access to some squares, let's say.
And if you have to take with a knight, that's a huge concession. Then white's knight, the world opens up to white's knight. Knight f4, knight c3. Both moves are now possible. And again, nothing happens too fast in a position like this. But this is how things start to go wrong for black, right? Knight gets to d5. It's clear that white has made progress the position 3 or 4 moves ago. I think that's how you judge the trend of the game when you talk about tiny advantages. It's not, okay, white's still probably not much better, but white's better than he was, 2 or 3 moves ago.
Yeah, I have a lot of experience playing games where my position keeps improving, and then it ends in a draw anyway. But
yeah.
It happens a lot.
I totally get what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, but
it's getting better. Oh, it's a game.
No, I have that a lot. Like my position keeps improving and everything is great. And at some point I realize, okay, so now we reached its peak. Now let's convert. And then I see, okay, well, there's nothing more to improve, and I've reached I've reached my peak. That's it. My position peaked. So that is a danger here for white. But in short term, I don't think knight takes d8 is what you want. I think you want to take on d3 here actually. Mm-hmm. And
but what now?
Yeah, there's nothing exciting. Nothing exciting. I mean, I don't know, some moves, some random move. I mean, I have to react as black. I don't need to do much. I can. Okay, what is my waiting move? Let's say it's king h8. What is your move?
Yeah. So here, I was flirting briefly with the idea of e5, but it doesn't feel that dangerous. Maybe to generate some attacking chances, because black doesn't have f5, right? Earlier, black could play f5 and keep the blockade. Here, he doesn't have it.
Yeah, I like that. I didn't see this actually, and that's because I was used to the idea of f5, and now it no longer is possible. And this could be this is a welcome change for white, because you get access to this pawn. It's a very long way to go. I mean, you still never beat Hikaru from this position, from my experience. But
absolutely.
But it's nice. It's nice. I could prevent that, by the way, if I wanted. Let me think how. So king h7, it's counterintuitive.
Ooh, I see what you want.
I didn't like that square, but surprisingly, after if I've checked now, I have bishop g6.
Mm-hmm.
Or even no, I think I stick to that.
And ef queen takes f6.
Yeah, you have ef
stable.
You have EF. But at least I activated my bishop, so it's just slightly better version of that. I could also prevent it entirely if you want. Let's go back bishop g6. Then I prevent e5 entirely.
Can I poke you with queen d5?
Yeah, I didn't like that you get some queens somewhere. I mean, maybe it's okay. Queen c6, maybe I'm okay. There's no threat, but giving you some.
But again, it feels like the trend of the game is just a tiny bit starting to favor white here. Yeah. 24 minutes, by the way, on Ding's clock, and with every minute we're starting to get into more concerning territory. He's got a lot of decisions to make. First of all, on this move, does he take on d3 or not? And then suddenly we're having a hard time finding a move that checks all the boxes.
Exactly. Now imagine that we land here somewhere, and knight c3 is coming, and now you have 10 minutes.
Not even 30.
Yes,
and
it's
now
not
you
even
have
30
minutes. Here. It's 28. This is becoming problematic for Ding.
Yeah, and now suddenly there is a question, because knight c9 d5 is a question. There is no answer, and there are only 10 minutes, and there are 12 moves. Suddenly it all comes, and that's how you lose games. When somehow the question is asked at the wrong time, it's exactly how you lose these kind of games. Because I've lost some of those, like not many. I've won some, not many. But when you win or lose, that's how what happens. Somehow you get lucky that the question is asked at the right time. There is little time on the opponent's clock, and it all comes together. You get nervous because you see the clock, you see the position, and that's when you can, you can struggle. But we are not there yet. Maybe Ding will find a way to make a more favorable, get a more favorable version. I think maybe e5 is not a big deal. Maybe we should have allowed e5 rather than allowed the queen to b7. Maybe. What are the alternative, by the way? What is he thinking about? Because if not rook
that's
d3,
exactly
what
I was going to bring up. Because all of what we were considering is after rook takes d3, we have established that white has a positional threat of rook takes d8, which would force black to compromise the position of his knight. Is there a way to circumvent that? I mean, c6 looks... Ugh.
I am not sure about that, actually. So is that really such a big deal? Because I'm thinking maybe I want to reroute the knight to c6, e5. What do you play here?
Okay. So let's say, first of all, the bishop versus knight endgame has to be valid. So let's say I go knight f4 and I try to force you into that. Knight d5? Knight d5?
I don't have to. I kind of have to, because if I play queen d7, there is this.
There's knight f6, yeah.
Yeah, so if I play queen d8, you take with the tempo. So yeah, I have to take. You take with.
And then I thought maybe queen d5, and I try to go for f4, e5, try to get the passer.
Yeah, this changes the position a lot, but I'll start with knight d4.
Mm-hmm. And then
this is one of the ways. One of the ways how Hikaru draws these games, by the way. One of the many ways. C3.
And then he wins. He gets his knight to e2 and his queen to g1, and then it's
yes, yes, yes.
So let's say c3.
Yeah, c3. I'm thinking, if I switch to passive defense, okay, you'll definitely massage me here. No, I'm not.
Sure.
I'm not thrilled, by the way. I'm not thrilled with this. I never thought I'm equalizing here, and I don't like the look of it. And in fact, this drawing tendency is kind of gone because of the opposite color bishops being gone. Not a fan. Not a fan. Yeah.
Uh-oh. C5. So Ding's 24th move. Rather than taking on d3, he procrastinated one move. Why does c5 make things so much worse? Is it because of the d5 square? Why do I feel like with the pawn on c6, everything was fine, and now suddenly all of the lines are problematic? What is the nature of the difference?
By the way, just to, I was trying to go back indeed, as you mentioned, c5, and I realized that the reason he played a5 is actually that after takes, rook d8, Jan, of course, wanted to go rook d3. And now, in case of the same thing happening, pawn is hanging. Although I realize now I can play knight c5 and back. Maybe that would be maybe that is kind of the most solid way to defend.
He tried to eliminate all of the problems, but when you're defending, you close some doors, others open.
Yeah, it's always very hard. Queen e2, I'm threatening before. Committal. Maybe after all you go a5 anyway. Yeah. Okay. Not sure. All these are such. That's the thing about these positions. It's all so little, but c5. Yeah, it's one thing is a plus, another thing is a minus. You regret each of your smallest decisions, and it's tough. It's tough. That's why that's why suffering is no fun. And okay, this is the position on the board, and yeah, some questions to be answered. Just one thing I wanted to point out, by the way. Just how terrible is this?
That has to be decided. Under 20 minutes, by the way, now for Ding, and it's.
I think the reason it's terrible is because my pawns are on the dark color here, and I cannot get them to the light squares so easily. Because if I did, I think I would be happy to just give you this. I mean, with black at some point. It's okay to, to not have these dangers with queen b7, queen c6, knight d5, like all this stuff, just to give you this and say, okay, let's compromise. You get your pawn, I get my color bishop drawing chances, and let's just play this out.
I get my defensive clarity, but you can go b5, but queen a7. It's like what they said about Mikhail Tal sacrifices. Like you can only take one piece at one time. Here you can only push one pawn at a time, and you can't push them all to the right squares fast enough.
Exactly. So it doesn't achieve the desired goal. It just gives the pawn, but it doesn't give me that clarity. So knight d4 is not the move yet, but it's an idea to keep in mind. So I think allowing e5 might be the way. Queen e8, or maybe I like this queen e8 move, maybe. I don't know. Just, nice move, maybe.
So Ding has finally made a move. It took me a second to realize, Anish, what happened. He was not at the board. Again, he was thinking from his rest area, and c6, which I dismissed, because in my mind, it weakened the d6 square, has been played.
It's just a very ugly move.
On the clock.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's bad, probably, and we know why he got there. He had these issues with the d5 square, but it's just a move that is a little bit ugly, so you just sometimes not see it happen.
So bishop d6 is possible, but
but then the rook is a bit lacking squares, right? So after
maybe becomes annoying. Yeah,
after I move the queen, the c4, these pieces are all cramped here, and somehow the rook lacks a little bit of space. You could go queen d1 though. You could do something like this, and c4 you have rook d2. It's possible, by the way. Not stupid at all.
Really nice prophylactic idea.
Bishop d6 is not stupid at all, actually. have knight d4 there, but no, then so let's say queen to, I don't know, e8 or b7. E8 maybe a bit more normal, yeah?
So let's say queen e8,
Queen
yeah,
D1
queen
or-
d1, for instance. And then maybe
Sometimes-
black goes, yeah, knight d4.
Yes,
Is
sometimes,
there bishop
yeah.
c7?
Yeah, you're right. You'll go bishop c7. Probably, yes.
Suddenly everything's collapsing. Like Ding
I
has
have
tried
this
to put his
nowhere.
pawns on the best squares, he's put his pawns on the worst squares.
But it was not easy for him. I mean, like, what do you want him to do? Magnus says.
No. I would.
It was not easy. Yeah, it was
lost
not
this
easy.
a long
I mean,
time ago.
When a7 was coming, then after b6, the a6 pawn was hanging with queen being on d3. So it was not obvious. Then after this, now he's worried that after knight f4, he will lose these pawns, and this will fall. He doesn't want to go a4 because it's soft as well. So then he went c5 to be able to go c6. Then he went c6. And now he has a hole on d6 on it. So it all happened naturally, and I think it's just a consequence of having a unpleasant position that it eventually gets unpleasant. I'm not even sure we needed to go bishop d6. If we take, by the way, queen d8 is still not possible. We don't lose the pawn directly, but we lose it after
Bishop
bishop
c7.
Yeah, that's a problem.
And to borrow your terminology, now is the time to ask questions, because just to quickly clarify, for those just joining, Ding has 18 minutes to make 14 moves. That's less than a smidge over 1 minute per move, which is nothing at this level. Please continue.
Yeah.
Nepo takes the rook.
Okay, queen f4, very tempting. Queen f4, queen b8, by the way. Queen f4, very
Ooh.
tempting. I like this queen f4 move. Very nice.
Man.
He's gonna play.
Ding is
It's
in
a
trouble.
Jan move. It's a Jan move. Jan likes infiltration with the queen. That's Jan's favorite topic.
And he likes to do it
coming.
fast.
Yeah.
Jan
yeah.
move fast.
Yes.
He
Queen
smells
f4.
blood.
Watch this. I know this.
There
I
it
know
is.
my man. I know my man. He loves queen f4, queen b8. This is how he beat Van Hao in some game. He loves this queen infiltrations and trying to be annoying
Wow.
from behind. It's his kind of style. Yeah, I'm not liking this at all.
I love what you said about the questions being asked at the right time, and Ding does not have the time to answer them. 18 minutes, queen b8 is threatened. You could end up losing 2 or even 3 pawns on the queen side in the blink of an eye. Does black have a move here? Or
Yeah, I
are we
think
now
queen
talking,
b7.
are we in the territory of having to give up material?
I think not just yet. I think also we should not over dramatize the situation. 18 minutes, that's still something. And the question
Sure.
is not yet like unanswerable, but we are getting there, let's say. I think
But
queen b7
Queen
would
c7?
be. Oh, I
C7
forgot.
anyway?
Sorry, I forgot that queen c7 was a threat. I thought queen d6. Queen c7 is a huge thing, yeah. Yeah, I'm collapsing here. What about that completely? Wow. Okay, so wait, queen c7 is a threat actually.
Wow.
That is
It's
actually
even
the threat.
stronger than queen b8.
Yeah, I didn't realize the
C7
idea was not queen b8 but queen c7. Okay, so maybe it's
So b5.
b5 only move, yeah? Yeah, b5 is the
And
only
then you
okay,
give
b5.
up a pawn. But
Which
White
one?
does not want to, I think, White does not want to take a5 and allow knight d4.
Yeah, I mean, I
loses
think
the
we
second
both
pawn.
we both assume that knight b7 is not going to happen, yeah? Because that's awful.
Well, I
Awful
missed
knight.
it, but yes, I'm
Uh-huh.
assuming it didn't happen.
Yeah, I don't know, like you missed it or you're just such a high
I
class
missed it.
player, you don't even
I missed
see
it.
such horrible moves. Okay.
Right, it doesn't even occur to me to put the knight on.
Yes.
You'd get kicked out of a Soviet schoolboy camp for putting a knight on such a square.
Yeah, no, that's the famous like Jan Timman also. Whenever he would miss a move and it would not be good, he would just say that it's just my subconscious just sees that this is wrong.
Rejects moves of this low
Yeah, no, I
plebeian
guess
caliber.
knight b7 not the end of the world because I'll go c4 and the knight could eventually come out. It's a very ugly endgame, but that said, it's an endgame. It remains somewhat drawish.
Mm-hmm.
What are other? Okay, b5 I think is the only move. Yeah, it's simply the only move, not to lose material on the spot.
And is a Jan thing to do to go queen b8 quickly to just keep as much tension on the board as possible?
Yeah, I thought that was the actual threat. And okay, I have bishop d6 next. Bishop c7 is the bigger threat, so I guess you have to move the king. Now I can infiltrate here. Am I not just winning a pawn?
I believe you are.
Keeping
Now
the
black can
knight.
try for some
At least
counterplay, but
something like this, but
yes,
or queen d2 maybe is more what you meant, yeah.
that's queen d2. But I don't believe in it because the dark squares are under white's control. Maybe knight d4, but then knight e6.
Yeah, but that's another way how Hikaru holds these kind of positions. So we're back to, you know, there are resources there. If you're resourceful, you have time. There are resources in these kind of positions, such as this one. But it is very dicey because you lost the pawn without having traded the knights. So it is not as drawish as it was. Well, luckily you have this queen d2 thing. You probably forced trade of the knights, but maybe white could improve on this line. Maybe could delay bishop d6.
Yeah. And imperceptibly, I mean, as we're talking, bang, another 3 minutes off the clock. Now you basically have 1 minute per move. And Ding is going to have to take some more time because at this point, we're in the territory of high value of mistake. If you make one mistake, you're dead on the spot. That was not the case for Ding just a little while ago. And so, folks, we will likely get a time scramble, at least a one-sided time scramble as we head to move 30. So we're going to take this opportunity, take one more very quick break, folks. We promise we will be back very soon with Ding's attempt to save a position that has been getting worse and worse. Will we see a decisive game in round 1 of the FIDE World Championship? That remains to be seen, and we will continue to bring the action for you in just a couple of short minutes.
What's the best way to follow any chess event, from the World Chess Championship to the candidates, the Speed Chess Championship, Title Tuesday, and so much more? Chess.com/events has all of the top chess tournaments played both over the board and online. Analyze and review games from the world's greatest players with live commentary, cloud analysis, opening explorer, and table bases. Find all the key event information, including schedules, prizes, results, news reports, player bios, tie breaks, and more. Even compete by voting for your predicted results. Explore chess.com/events today on web or with our iOS and Android apps and experience chess like never before.
Chess Kid is fun. Chess is great for the brain, but it's also fun to play. And Chess Kid makes it easy to have fun. Whether your child is a total beginner or a prodigy, they can hop on and find a well-matched opponent from around the world at any time. Chess Kid is the safe, parent-approved way for your child to play chess online. Chess Kid is educational. To kids, it feels just like playing, but chess is a great way to learn patience, strategy, and critical thinking. Chess Kid features a comprehensive training program that guides kids to level up on their way to mastery. There are more than 50,000 chess puzzles and a whole library of entertaining videos that teach strategies, tactics, openings, and endgames specifically for kids. Chess Kid is easy. Whether you're a parent helping your child, a coach managing dozens of kids, or a school of hundreds. Signing up is free and easy, so what are you waiting for?
Welcome back to the 2023 FIDE World Championship. Game 1 between Ding and Nepo is heating up in a very, very big way. It's a deja vu moment for Ding Liren because at the candidate tournament, round 1, there was a similar game arc where his position got worse and worse and Nepo ended up grinding him down. Will we see this happen again? Grandmaster Nishigiri, we called it. Queen to b8 has been played almost instantly by Nepo. He is accelerating the pace of his play. He is going to win a pawn on the queen side. I feel like that's not up for debate. The question is, how many is he going to win? Which one is he going to win? And will Ding be able to produce any kind of counterplay with this queen and knight?
Yeah, it's a good point. And actually, I'm getting quite excited here because the bishop d6 line we looked at seemed to give like enough counterplay after queen d7 and queen to d2, followed by knight e6. This I felt is kind of reasonable for black. But this move bishop c7 that we didn't cover yet, that looks a lot more promising. Now after knight e6, bishop a5, your queen is not active at all. The only question I have is whether knight d4 perhaps is good enough. And it is very, very close. Now, first of all, queen e5 is never going to happen because pawn will afterwards be collected. Maybe if black is in time to trade the d pawn, then I think it's drawish, although it changed from how it was. There is symmetry gone here a little bit. There is a potential for passed pawn now.
And
the other thing is, yeah, long term. And the other thing is, maybe I can even prevent d3 from happening somehow. I don't quite see how, but yeah, maybe I can. Like, no, not easy. Bishop b6.
Well, when you say d3, in which situation?
Yeah, I mean
like
bishop queen d7 and d3. Yeah.
Well, you could try to trade queens, but I think their black has bishop a2, bishop b1.
Yeah, but even that. So just to show that, okay, I assume that is a draw. But even that, it is no longer trivial because I have a potential to, let's say hypothetical. Let's say I bring my king here, I go b3, a4. I have a passed pawn here, then I have a passed pawn here, and then I win. It's not easy because you do like bishop f1, you start bothering me everywhere. But it is possible. So I think situation is very, very dangerous for Ding, and I think he blundered. You know what? I think he blundered. I think what he missed is that I think he missed queen c7 as a threat. It's what I missed. I saw queen b8. I didn't see queen c7. I think he might have missed queen c7 because that explains why he thought so long here. He probably planned something like queen b7, queen d6, knight e6,
which would have fully defended if it were not for queen c7, because queen b8 is completely innocuous. Obviously, black has the time to defend his pawns.
Yeah, I think
queen c7 is over.
I think he when he played c6, I think he missed queen c7. Somehow I also missed it. Because usually you think a queen trade without even winning a pawn is okay, but suddenly you win the b6 pawn, which is crucial. And so that's why he started thinking so long about the only moves that are b5. And then king h7, which is also absolutely obviously the only move. But he spent time because it wasn't planned. And he's thinking like, okay, how big is the damage? Like, what have I done? Am I still okay? Is there plan B? Like, I think he's in a very bad spot. Bishop c7, bishop a5 being a serious problem. And as you pointed out, there have been games before that Ding lost to Jan in this kind of fashion. Not feeling optimistic for him at all.
I mean, a confident Jan who smells blood, who has the time advantage, I mean, is a Jan to be reckoned with. And I don't mean to keep harping on this, but Ding, still not at the board. He is sticking to his guns. He is staying in that rest area section. Whatever it is about that spot that's conducive to thinking, but he might have to change up his routine soon enough. So the choice here, Anish, is between bishop d6 and bishop c7. We believe those to be the only two feasible candidate moves. But we're leaning toward bishop c7.
Yeah, I think this queen d2 infiltration was an issue. White maybe has other moves, but I don't think they're as good. I think you do want to take the pawn. The question is which one. Yeah, I think that position we discussed is extremely important. Bishop c7, knight e6 takes. I think if you don't go knight d4, you just lost a pawn. We keep the knights on the board, and you just lost a pawn. You didn't get any closer to the draw, and you'll have to suffer. And long term, there is not only you lost a pawn, you lost the wrong pawn, because I have the potential to create a passed a pawn here, right?
Could I try queen d7? Or is that, I mean, obviously it's, I'm not hiding my intentions here, but queen
Yeah,
d1 is not that easy to
good one.
stop.
Even tempo down, yeah. In that line, you could even a tempo down, you still try to activate the queen. That is actually
It's super annoying,
good one.
actually.
Good one.
It's super
Good move.
annoying.
27 is very good, yeah.
Thank you. And white would want to play queen d8. Unfortunately, that's not possible.
Yeah. So do we have to trade knights like that, or how else do? Maybe knight f4, yeah, is what I do.
Right, and everything's nicely coordinated here. Black's queen doesn't have as much to attack with the knight on an invulnerable square, and when the knight's off the board.
But now we enter a situation where I would say, a reverse of what it was before. So I wouldn't say it's a 30-70 draw. 30-70 being white win, 70 draw, but I would say it's like a 70-30. I think it's more likely white wins and black draws because of the way the pawn structure on the queen side is. If the pawn on c5 was on a6, as in some lines we demonstrated earlier, I think it would be much more likely to be a draw. Now, because of the potential to create a passed pawn here and here, very long term, of course, there, even the simplest bishop endgames are no longer obvious. They could even be lost already. So definitely unpleasant. And this queen d7 doesn't solve all the issues, nor does knight d4, I think. I think Jan just should go for this pawn, yeah. I think he will, because this other one's much less tempting, right? Queen d2, that's also it's a wrong pawn to take, because now it's a symmetry here. It's just position. It's just the wrong pawn positionally. Yeah, it's just the wrong pawn to take. Not even if black played the move like a4, it's still a wrong pawn to. Although the bar somehow shoots up, but I mean, conceptually speaking, I would still think that black is happier having these pawns than having the doubled c pawns, because white cannot create a pulsar here. So I think Jan is taking his time, but the a5 pawn should eventually be the one captured.
And there's no chance that there's some third candidate move he's contemplating. I saw briefly. Yeah.
That we talked about?
Yeah, I think we talked about knight b7.
Yeah. Yeah, but this endgame, by the way, is also juicy, because here I'm not up a pawn, but here black will never be able to trade the knights. So you just suffer.
The knight is stalemated by the bishop.
It's a juicy endgame. Yeah, I think this is the alternative. Yeah, I think that he's weighing his options, because this endgame is very juicy, I have to say.
Wow. And then you can...
I would have... Yeah.
No, it is juicy, but how... this is some of the hardest decisions to make, not just on the defensive end, but from Jan's perspective, it's just as agonizing to have to decide. Personally, in these types of situations, the moment I decide on one thing, I immediately start regretting it. The second the hand is released from the piece.
Yeah, it's the same. It's a I think it's our problem more than the problem of the game. We should stop regretting. But I also have that a lot. I mean, whenever you have a choice between two seemingly equal options, it's very easy to regret the move you made, and that's the wrong approach. But that said, look, if we zoom out, it's game one, and it's a risk-free position. I think agonizing is a big word.
Overstating it a little bit, yeah.
Overstating it a little. I mean, Jan is in a much more comfortable. Yeah, I mean, it's okay. Draw will be fine. It's okay. Afterwards he will say press conference. Yeah, I was better pressing. It's draw is okay. While for Ding, I mean, it's losing it first game. It's a big disaster. And he's down on the clock as well. So.
Wow. I mean, big disaster indeed. And Grandmaster Nakesons in the chat made a good point that if he does lose the first game, we might see some early blood being spilled. We might see Ding kind of drastically change his routine, his openings. But we should point out that losing the first game of a world championship match, that's obviously not necessarily a death sentence. The first world championship match ever held in Havana in 1889, when Steinitz defeated Chigorin to become world champion. Wilhelm Steinitz got destroyed the first game. Then he won the second.
Okay.
Then he lost the third. There was only one draw in that entire match. The first 16 games were all decisive.
Yeah, Daniel, I mean, you bring up that match. I mean, that was an entirely different time. If you look up the games between Chigorin and Steinitz, this was some wild stuff. I mean, it's different game they played. It was such a different time. They're blundering left and right, and it was
The
crazy
amount
stuff.
of blunders is staggering, honestly, but it's, yeah.
They were
how-
making
how
the
we
first
have
steps,
changed.
Yeah.
We
I mean, they
stand
were
on the shoulders
discovering-
of giants.
Exactly. And they were discovering the game pretty much at its like initial stages. It was a completely different time. The example that came to my mind as well was the one between Anand and Topalov. That's the match that I already followed.
Slightly more
that
recent.
was year, 2010 we speak here, I think. 10 probably. 2010, 9 or 10. I think 10. Yeah.
Yep.
And there was a crushing opening defeat. Topalov crushed Vishy in game 1. Vishy came back in game 2. And Vishy eventually ended up winning the match. It was a tense match. He won because he won in the last game and he edged out there. But I think a lot depends on Dink's how much prep he's done with the white pieces, or rather not how much, but how successful it has been. Has he found certain interesting ideas with white? Because when you are down after game 1, I think what you want is you want to go back to your hotel room and feel like you have something ready. You want to have something ready for the next game, because if you don't, that mood that you lost, and there's nothing improving that mood. But if you have something to look forward to, some opening idea, it's okay. You'll think, okay, I'll come back tomorrow maybe.
And a feeling of comfort that you know what you're playing. You have to get excited about the ideas that you come up with. You can't be impartial to what you're playing. You got to bring your absolute best, what makes you happiest to the World Championship. And yes, I need to correct myself. Steinitz-Chigorin was not first World Championship match. That was Steinitz-Sukertort, Engi Hikaru in 1886. This was the first Steinitz-Chigorin match, and there would be several, as Mikhail Chigorin never managed to take away the throne from Steinitz, despite some incredibly agonizing defeats.
Did Hikaru correct you on that?
He did.
So Hikaru is there backseating, and fact-checking our stream. Okay, that's good to know.
Good to have, personal fact-checker in the chat. Speaking of facts, Nepo was spitting some facts in an interview that I conducted with him a couple of months ago. Let's listen into some of Nepo's amazing insights.
Here and there, but there are like 4 games, 6 games. It's not quite the same. It's not the same level of excitement, involvement, and preparation. So probably this will favor me.
About talking about the format of the match, he's confident, and his confidence, Anish, is something that I've noticed, I think, has increased since his match with Carlsen, when everybody was shoveling dirt on him. That's it. He's broken. He doesn't believe he can win a world championship match. Suddenly, all of those people are gone.
Yeah, I think Jan, one thing we have to give him, I think his confidence is unshattered, and he's always been very confident in himself, and for good reasons, obviously. Tremendous talent and a great player. And I think nothing can break him. If that match didn't break him, then nothing will. He is unbroken, and he knows that things could have gone differently. He attributes all the bad results to individual mistakes. I think there's nothing wrong with him. He even in the interviews afterwards, he said there's nothing wrong with his mindset, nothing wrong with his psychology. At times, maybe he's even too confident, and maybe he is even somewhat wrong with that. But that doesn't mean, doesn't change the reality that he is very good and very confident. And confidence, I think in chess they say it's better to be overconfident than underconfident, and I think that is true.
And we apologize for that. The little segment cut off. We promise that's not all Nepo had to say about his level of experience and how the Magnus match impacts his state of mind. Let's try that again. Here's Nepo.
I mean, every unsuccessful game is a lesson, and of course, the main thing I took away from this match was my experience, and experience was quite sad. But maybe that's why it was quite useful. Yeah, I mean, even like in the middle of the match, I would say, even until I started, let's say, like blundering everything in one move, I would say that I came to sort of the conclusion that okay, it's pretty much different comparing to what I have, to what I have expected. So now I'm like in a way can model, let's say the match how it goes, how it might go. So for example, a general idea of all right. So to win candidates, you should like win like 3 or 4 games. To win match, you should win 1 game and lose 0. Yes. I mean, it's also quite quite a childish approach, I think. Yeah, so speaking of the upcoming match, it's, I mean, surely I think it's, I wouldn't say it's like my only advantage comparing to Ding, but it's one of like very important things that already, okay, I have like more or less a bitter experience, but nevertheless, that's an experience. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if he's like pretty much used to, this type of chess. Of course, he's playing some matches like here and there, but there are like 4 games, 6 games. It's not quite the same. It's not the same level of excitement, involvement, and preparation. So probably this will favor me.
A little bit more context about that, what 4 or 6 games refer to. So Nepo, he believes that his experience is a net positive. Right now, the way that the first game is going, his words have aged pretty well. Anish, bishop d6, though, is on the board. Big decision there, which is a move that we looked coldly upon compared to bishop c7, but you could double back. After queen d7, you do have the option to play queen c7 and go back to that endgame, which you call juicy.
Yeah, though when you play bishop d6, you probably don't intend to follow it up with queen c7. Because if anything, you give black maybe, more options, so to speak. I mean, queen c7 forces queen takes c7, right? Bishop d6, queen d7, queen c7, there is an option of bishop e8 or bishop e6. And once you decided on bishop d6, also you get one step move closer to time control, which is not beneficial to you, who has more time and better position. So he doesn't intend queen c7, he will not do it. Unless he here really changes his mind, which he might now do, because he probably will realize that bishop c5, queen d2 is an issue. So I have to say that, yes, I liked c7. Bishop d6 is my least favorite of all 3, because I did not see a good follow-up after queen d2. I do not see a good follow-up here. I mean, knight to d4, knight e6. Just briefly thinking of some weird tactics, but I don't think they work. Something knight b7. You can even move the bishop probably. Like this motif occurred to me. I don't know if it makes sense.
Perpetual.
Okay,
if the king goes to f1, you get mated.
Yeah, this is a draw because you can go to f1.
Yep.
But maybe bishop b6.
Wow. And then I guess c5 doesn't do anything because the queen defends f4.
Yeah, no, this is just pretty, but I guess knight e6, yeah, is the... I mean, this position I think is acceptable for black. I think this at this point, Ding is happy with that. I mean, very limited damage here. You put the pawn to a4, you bring... Okay, even if you were forced to bring the queen back, because white somehow, scared you with bishop f8 or something, it's okay. Like, it's very drawish and it's very safe, and you are worse, you have to suffer, but it's okay. Draw is still within reach. But... yeah, the same couldn't have been said about bishop c7 or queen c7. So I'm not sure what Jan missed. He definitely missed something, because queen c7 is the most...
He's thinking.
He's the only move, and he realized that. He missed... I think from afar he might have thought about knight e6. When he wanted to do, let's say, I don't know, queen d6, let's say he planned. And now he suddenly realized there's... Yeah, he suddenly realized there's queen d2, and he maybe missed some detail somewhere down the road here. Maybe he missed some detail, and that's why he's thinking, because of course it makes no sense to play bishop d6 after the only move queen d7 to then think.
To start thinking, because where did you expect him to go? Did you expect him to not move to queen e8? So it's clear. It's a clear tell when you make a move, your opponent responds in an only move fashion, and then you adjust your sitting position, you go into a deep think. Clearly, he knows queen c7 is an option. It's very hard to evaluate. That endgame, incredibly hard to evaluate whether it's winning technically, or is it a technical draw? So very difficult decision now for Nepo. And Anish, correct me if I'm wrong, but psychologically, I think it's also hard to course correct. Well, were saying that, right? Especially because then you're regretting not playing that in the previous move. Maybe that extra move would have been the difference between Ding making time control and drawing and making a mistake on move 40.
Yeah, Although we should also not exaggerate the importance of this one move, especially in an endgame like Queen C7. But I do think it is a small setback, small negative emotion there, because Jan probably anyway regrets even Queen C7. He probably thinks now that Bishop C7 was the best option. That's what he probably thinks. Maybe that is also the case. And so now he realizes that, okay, Bishop C5 is bad, but plan B Queen C7 is a compromise, but it's not what he had wanted. I'm not sure he regrets that extra move to the time control. I think he probably regrets not having gone Bishop C7. And when you are pressing like that, and I don't know if you have the same, but I definitely have that as well in classical chess, especially. Each time you have this negative emotion, you're upset that you've done something slightly wrong. Somehow it just ruins the vibe, and somehow you want to play a perfect game. You understand? And so far he thinks so far he maybe played the perfect game. And now he knows, okay, this was imperfect. He knows it's imperfect. And the first imperfection, that's a small psychological blow there to your winning chances as well, I think.
I experienced that, I think, in a slightly different way, in the sense that I will replay it constantly. It's like your tongue searching for, that space or the tooth fell out. It's like I would constantly replay the scenario where I do go Bishop C7 and I would have won the game and I would have been happy. And then you keep adding on to that narrative. And it's sometimes hard to get that out of your mind, because you just keep telling yourself, all I had to do was trust my instincts and play that one move. Whereas you still have a game to play and you still have winning chances, but you're too busy exploring the alternate scenario. And obviously the regret just increases when you flesh that scenario out.
Yeah, I think what you mentioned is even...
What's happened.
Yeah. I think what you mentioned is even worse, because luckily I don't do that much. I don't go for alternative reality, because that is really, very harmful. But even that, just a negative feeling, I mean, I try to brush it away, but deep inside I know that it was there. Okay, something entirely different has been played.
Knight G3.
Okay, that's very interesting. It's just keeping the tension all together, doesn't want to go for the pawn at all. It's a cool move.
I actually like that concept a lot.
Yeah, not what we thought about, because we were thinking more short term, grabbing some pawn, forcing some endgame. But also this move actually somewhat justifies the previous move. Because Queen C7 is an admission of being wrong or having a different intent. And Knight G3 is kind of the principled way forward. He's like, no, this was the plan. I wanted to get the bishop to D6 and knight to G3.
Yep, who needs pawns?
How good is this? Yes, how good is this? So knight to E6, I guess?
Yeah.
Knight to... Is knight F5 is knight D4 possible?
And then
looks fine.
I was going to suggest... I always want to suggest knight E7 because I'm used to that pattern, but there's a bishop on F7 guarding G8, so it's not effective.
I don't know. There's no... Also, after Queen F8, I have Queen E8. Let's say I take, you take... You go here, there. Oh, sorry. This is hanging. Everything. Okay.
Oh, it's check. Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, let's say you would go bishop c5 first. That doesn't work. So there's no point to knight on e7.
Too clunky.
Oh, maybe c3 first. Maybe c3. Just protect.
Prophylaxis.
Positional.
But then black can take the tempo and improve. Question is how? Maybe
c4 or...
I was thinking bishop g6 to take the sting out of knight f5, but maybe it has the opposite effect.
It's coming anyway, yeah?
But then maybe takes and knight... Ooh, knight where? Knight doesn't have too many options.
G5.
Knight g5. Knight g5.
Okay, it's rerouting. The queen's coming out.
Back. I didn't realize the knight at f7. Maybe knight d8 also.
Oh, yeah. Same effect. I'm not sure knight f5 was needed.
Now h4 can be thrown in, maybe.
Is f4 a thing?
f4. It absolutely is a thing. I mean, black is almost out of squares for his minor pieces.
Yeah, you gotta go back, I think. Or no. The engine shoots up. Not happy. First of all...
Is it f5 and you trap the knight?
Oh, h4. I just literally trapped the knight.
And if knight d8, bishop c7.
Okay, I just didn't realize. We just literally trapped the knight suddenly. Yeah. Okay, now I understand what I've done. I should put the bishop on e8. And then I would have f7 square
for the knight.
In either case. Yeah, I just completely forgot that somehow the knight could run out of squares.
It's incredible. Knight e6 has been played in the meantime. And also in the meantime, Nepo is down to 20 minutes himself, which is not time pressure. Again, not exaggerating, but listen, this is not the 45 minutes he had just a couple of moves ago. We remind you, for those just joining, once move 40 is made, 60 minutes are added to the players' clocks. Then after 20 more moves, after move 60, an additional 15 minutes added, and that's when the increment kicks in. There is no increment until move 60. All right.
Yeah.
Here we go.
And psychologically, it's a very different situation. So as you will probably agree, 20 minutes against 11 or 45 against 11, that's like Earth and night and day, Earth and basically, yeah, it's just a completely different story. And now it's sort of a mutual each time trouble. While if you are 10 minutes against 45, it felt like you're just getting crushed, to be honest, on the clock.
F4 has been played. He didn't play C3.
Why is the question
mark? And
mark?
why did we reject this? Did we consider F4 immediately?
No, we didn't consider F4 yet. Knight D4 could be one thing. Knight D4 at the very least is okay. Is that also why the bar is so happy? Bishop C5 and
Knight F.
Just Knight C2 simply. No, Knight F3. I was also thinking, I understand what you mean. Yeah, some pattern there. I don't think
it doesn't
that
work.
works.
King G1, King G2, and Bishop F2. Yeah.
Yeah. Everything already. This is the most solid. Yeah. Oh yeah, King G2. You're right, because Knight F1 is Bishop C4.
Mm-hmm.
But I think simply Knight C2 and Knight is not so bad. It's
wait a second. Queen D2, Knight E1 is checkmate. Hello.
Yeah. Hello there.
Maybe time for Queen D6 and a draw for there.
Yeah, you mean right here, yeah?
I mean,
this is very little. Oh, it's nothing actually.
Yeah, no.
Wait, 93? Okay, you have to be accurate.
Declined. Yeah, let's play on, Jan.
Yeah, okay, of course. No, white of course doesn't run any risk, but you have to be accurate. Yeah, let's say Queen A7 maybe is the one. Oh, also that bar doesn't like it also.
And Ding is up from his chair. He's definitely surprised by this move.
Yeah, it's a clumsy thing. I mean, Jan clearly something's gone wrong here. Something's gone wrong. There were two great options, and somehow he missed something, and now he's just slightly lost the thread.
Now, I might have zoned out for a second. After Knight D4, if C3, what did we...
we didn't look at it yet, yeah.
Where does the knight make its home? It's actually hard to decide.
The default is B3, of course. That's the normal square. But I'm wondering if there is some resource that we are missing. But I think it's just B3, I guess.
And white can't make easy progress because anytime the bishop moves, the queen infiltrates, and bishop on F7 is an amazing defender. It's just holding all of the key squares.
Exactly. No, but the thing, when we pushed F4 in our line after C3, the point was not to just push F4. The point was that we are really going after the knight on E6 that had no squares. Now, the knight's kind of comfortable on the other side of the board. And F4 in itself is just a weakening of the light squares more than anything else. So I don't think you're like happy to push F4, although of course he will try to generate some kingside play. That's probably his idea. But whether that can work is a completely different question. And also Knight D2 is coming. I can target your e-pawn. It could
backfire.
Yeah, I mean, to say that it's getting double-edged and like white has to worry about things is maybe overstating it. But it does a little bit. It does a little bit.
And Jan could be tempted by Ding's clock. He could try to initiate complications, and then it truly will become once again a 3-result game. F4, a mistake due to Knight D4, and Ding has to find this move. I mean, this is on a silver platter. This has been served to him.
Something else.
And he hasn't done it.
But I wanted to mention one thing, Daniel. Maybe Bishop C5, Knight C2, Knight F5 bothered him. Maybe he was bothered by some concrete business here.
Ooh.
Maybe this was Jan's plan as well.
It's easy when the eval bar shows zeros, but there's mate threats circulating against black king as well.
Yeah, knight is weird, and okay, let's
H5.
Knight E1. Oh, but there's Bishop D6. Yeah, there is nothing here. No, there is nothing here.
Has made a move on the other side of the board. He's gone H5. And probably not that bad either.
I think what happened is he trusts. What sometimes you do is you have little time, you trust the opponent. You think, okay, obviously he saw knight d4. Obviously he has some plan. He just spent like 20 minutes in the last 3 moves. He has some plan. You just think, okay, it's dangerous. What are my options? Oh, h5. h5 maybe not so bad. And you just dismiss the main move because you just trust the guy. You have little time, and you just play the second move, which is, by the way, decent. The computer doesn't dislike it. Yeah, h4 is the idea. Pushing the knight forward, giving the king some room. So how is this line? h4, knight f5,
Knight
bishop
f5, bishop g6,
g6, knight e7, take, and king h. Bishop e7. Yeah, I was just thinking, can I afford that, or is just checkmate?
That there must be. There's a queen. Oh, queen f7, knight g8, knight f6.
Yeah, this is a hard one. I mean, this is also not. This is also scary. Like this also would be scary. You have to just. You go back here. This is also barely holding, but this queen f7 move you mentioned, that's just a killer. You threaten this knight g8, deep puzzle rush style checkmate here.
Yeah, that is, Ray Robson would find that in, 1 millisecond.
Yeah. Yes, but anybody and everybody less talented than Ray would also realize bishop e4 is too dangerous anyway, and just
play bishop f7.
Or bishop e8 even, yeah. The computer likes both moves, yeah. And
bishop e8 is just a shutdown move, just shut down white's pieces completely.
And they're actually, in fact, they're all defending each other, but it's very clumsy construction. They're not attacking anything, they're just defending each other. Jan instead plays, Jan plays c3, and now we are heading for this variation after h4.
Now, the knight doesn't have to jump to f5. Paradoxically, knight h1, knight f2 could be this positional idea to play prophylactically, make it hard for black to find useful moves.
Yeah, of course, you can do that. But let's just establish one thing. Things sort of have gone out of Jan's control somewhat anyway. Like, this was not the plan, and it looked really good. Here, he had a choice between a very beautiful endgame or winning a pawn. Instead, he wanted to win a pawn. Then he realized that this is a wrong pawn to win. There's queen d2. And then things just sort of spiraled slightly out of control. And now it's just...
and you're not going to win any pawns.
Yeah, he's just making moves.
You're
not winning any pawn. The pawn structure has become no longer this clear cut. The white's e4 pawn is potentially weak. Things just spiraled out of control. And I guess it's just okay for black somehow.
And Ding has not gone h4. Instead, he has pushed the pawn on the other side of the board. He's gone c4. Trying to fix the problem of that weak pawn. Obviously, we see that the developer is not a fan of that move.
But wait, we talked about this. It's blundering in a different... Oh, no. It's a different position. f5, I have h4 intermezzo.
Oh, but it's an
Very
only
similar.
move. And wait a second.
Yeah.
If we continue this line, knight e2...
Knight g5 though, no? Is that okay for black?
Oh, and maybe knight h1, knight f2. Maybe it's time for that
H1,
prophylactic. But still, it's lackluster. It's lackluster. Queen e8 even.
Yeah, h4 is nice. Like, compared to the line we had just before, pawn on h6, this was losing a piece, remember? Knight d8, bishop 7, knight g5, h4. But now, yeah, this h4 is an important resource. So Ding reserves the move h4 for desperate times.
And of course, white can go h4, but that creates this huge hole on g4.
Yeah, I was also thinking about that, yeah. But you cannot really use this, though, at the moment. And f5 is a threat. So,
and if you drop the knight away?
Yeah, you could give the knight the space, as we know, with bishop e8 idea. Or you could also trade queens. And go for this endgame after all, which is nice for white. Yeah, it's a nice endgame, even f5, bishop c7. I don't know how much it is, but it's nice. Yeah, maybe this bishop e8 idea. Maybe that. Now I have the square.
Bishop c7, I know.
Oh, and before you know it, my knight is actually approaching a juicy square here.
Hi, Phil Swift here. This is Flex Super Glue. Just one single drop virtually welds itself to the surface and can easily lift over 3 tons. Get the new Flex Super Glue because it works.
Yeah, it's concrete, yeah? You'll attack my knight, the king will protect itself, and maybe there is no checkmate, yeah?
Wow.
Maybe bishop d6.
Bishop d6 to cut off the king.
Yeah, and just there's just no play. So bishop d6, and suddenly you realize there's just no play and you're dead lost. Or you got excited a bit before, but it's just not happening. Things can get concrete, and the time situation is becoming.
If you're Jan, you're banking mostly on the time situation at this point. H4, I like the move H4 from a practical perspective. The wider the decision tree is for black, obviously the bigger the chance that a mistake happens before move 40 and H4 is played. Whew.
How is this G6 move? How bad is this move G6? Oh no, Queen D8.
He's played Queen D8 instantly.
Okay, okay.
He believes that this is a salvageable endgame. He feels confidently that that's the case. Queen trade is forced.
Yeah, well, either that or he thinks that this is the best he's got, and he's lucky that he at least has an endgame that doesn't lose 3. Because he might just have been really worried about this this prospects of the F5 push, and now he's just happy to go into some sort of an endgame. And he knows it's an unpleasant endgame, but he thinks, okay, first of all, the other endgame with Queen C7 was worse, because now he's got a good version of things. He managed to push the queen side a little bit, and white weakened himself with F4, got a G4 weakness here. So he's thinking, okay, things are not too bad, let's go for an endgame.
And he knows he'll make move 40 in one piece, and then he will have that extra hour that he can and will use to ultimately probably hold the draw. I think he's over the hump.
Yeah. It's important indeed that once the position clarifies, these crazy lines we just looked at with knight coming to E7 or F5 and all this stuff, there you need a lot of time. Once you take queens off the board, you don't need time. You could just play things by hand, and not much can go wrong, or not much can change in any case. Yeah, I tend to agree with you. Probably things will probably end okay for Ding, but he will suffer. He will suffer here.
But I guess Jan, to continue that thread from earlier, Jan has to put out of his mind the idea that he could have gotten a much juicier endgame with Queen C7. So the irony is that in a roundabout manner, they will have reached an endgame, and one that is just incomparably more defensible for black.
Yeah, I mean, I'm wondering how big a difference it is. We can just take a look here just to compare briefly. So, okay, bishop c7 is even knight e6. So we have this endgame, let's say, versus...
Here the knight, I guess, has a pathway to c5. Why did the knight not have c5 there? I guess because there's a pawn there.
Yeah,
there's the answer.
The pawns are already here, which is a commitment by white. White can keep the pawns much more fluid, and black has already gotten c4, and I think a4. Yeah, a4 and 2, but black has already gotten c4 there. So there are definitely some differences, and the differences favor black somewhat. We can tell that for sure. And Jan is thinking, I guess, about which version of the endgame to go for.
Yeah, so whether to play f5. Obviously, I briefly considered Queen b7, but it's no, it doesn't work.
Same here. Also about Queen b7.
There's this Queen g7 knight f5 idea at the end.
Yes, I thought about the same. Can show that.
Actually, wait, knight f4. There's knight f5. Whoa. Knight f4, knight f5. And
it's so surprising. Just checkmate. Queen is hanging. So surprising. Oh,
so maybe there is an option to keep the queens on the board.
Yeah, very much so. Okay, you have to defend like king g8 maybe. Just okay, maybe the king is better on here because knight f5 is coming. Maybe some move with the bishop here.
Bishop g.
G, yeah.
Oh gosh, such a hard decision to make. There's also bishop g6.
Bishop g6 allowing f5, but it's not the end of the world.
Make some intermediate move like bishop e7.
Yeah.
And then
what are
queen c7.
Bishop e8?
Wow.
Bishop e8 maybe, yeah. And you have queen d7 after knight f5 if needed.
And that might be the key idea, to sever the connection between the queen and the pawn on g7.
Yeah, this looks all right. Yeah, so queen b7, a little scare there you might have, but probably not a big deal after bishop e8. I think you don't want to start with f5, because if you start with f5, I will trade, and I'll activate my knight via c5 immediately, which is very nice. So if you would trade, you should trade with queen d8, knight d8, and then f5, shutting down my knight.
No, but this is a very hard decision to make. I think Jan should go for queen b7. And now that I saw this, I can't get it out of my head, like the song goes. And he's played it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Ding will take a moment here. How much time does he have, and how many moves does he have to make?
So this is his 34th move. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more moves to make. And he's finally at the board. He doesn't have time to run between the rest area and the board. So he's going to be at the board for the rest of this segment. Bishop g6, bishop b8, bishop g8. Bishop g6, of course, drops c6.
Yeah. First you establish if queen d6. Okay, he's very quickly spotted bishop e8.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, can't be great news for Jan. I guess he will just switch to an endgame after all. Knight f5, queen d7, and then just trade and just bring the king and just play this endgame. Slightly better still because of black's doubled pawns.
Can white insist on keeping the queen, so queen d7, queen b8? Okay,
yeah,
played.
You can, yes, probably you can, but I can also insist. Although
queen d8.
Yeah, but then I probably have a worse version with black.
Although again, the knight gets around to b7 and then through c5, which is the annoying part. There used to be a pawn there. Now the knight is a pathway out of b7.
Well, I mean, if the knight ever gets to b7, I could reestablish my bishop on b6 just to be sure that you are not going anywhere far. I don't think you will get too active. But the question is, if it's enough for white to win or not. Yeah, queen d7, is bishop g6 also? Or queen c6 pawn is hanging?
Yeah. Bishop
I
g6, queen
bishop
c6.
Yeah, queen d7 played.
Queen d7 played. And
yeah,
now
it's
another
a big moment for
mini decision. A blunder because of g6.
Yeah, you need to guard this bishop somewhat. So either queen b8, or you're okay with the endgame.
What if you zigzag? Queen b8, queen d8, queen a7. Queen d7, though, because you can't take a5 again because of this g6 resource. But you can pretend. And then
so after queen b8, but is there a threat? Like, can I make a move like maybe c5 or something, or is that just weakening? Or can I and then try to activate somehow someday?
It's a very foggy position. It's like hard to grasp. c5, maybe queen b6, but then queen c6.
Yeah, but like, what are you exactly? Why do you want to avoid the trade of queens with white right now? Because why do you want to keep the queens? What is your attack? I don't think you have so much.
No, I agree. The pieces are.
I think you should just go for the endgame and just be happy that you still have something because of the better pawn structure. Oh no, it keeps the tension. Okay.
Yeah, queen d8 is very likely to happen quickly. Ding getting closer to the time control.
You think queen d8, yeah?
And then perhaps he will trade and allegedly get a better version, although it's not a given that the knight on b7 is a bad piece at all.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe it's not. Yeah, queen d8 is probably logical. I mean, again, I think I can make a move here, like, I don't know, a4 or c5. I can make a move, but I'm not sure what for. Ding is checking if this is not the same position, but it's not. Knight f5, bishop e8 have been included.
Or he's also confirming just the amount of moves he needs to make.
Yeah, which is probably the case.
We've seen a couple of incidents throughout top level chess tournaments. Magnus or Vessel and Topalov, I think. I don't remember. Was it Magnus or Vesselin who lost a game like that in round 1 of Norway Chess, I think? Just
Magnus to Vesselin, yeah.
Magnus had clerical error. You skip a move on your score sheet. Everybody does that from time to time. And with 3.5 minutes left, trying to get the queens off the board is Ding Liren. Queen d8 is the most straightforward option, but you're pointing out that black is under no obligation to force anything and can play a move like a4. But queen d8 is played.
Yeah, you are, first of all, a prophet, but also you're extremely good at predicting opponents' moves in the time scramble. So you guessed it correctly. It's indeed queen d8. I have to add, by the way, that the point you made about the move counter. So, some opponents sometimes, I heard that they do it sometimes, so very rarely. They mislead you by not writing down the move. I think it's not allowed. But sometimes you check your own score sheet, you check opponent's score sheet.
You check your opponents, yeah.
but they can sometimes not write down the move, and that
safety in numbers, and then claim that they made a mistake.
Yeah, of course. That has happened in the past as well. I heard some stories. But for now, yeah, the Ding is chasing that queen. He wants that endgame. He wants his endgame, which is slightly worse, but it's at least safe. He knows there is a limit to how bad this endgame can be. It has to still be a draw. He will make his time control, and then he probably will defend the game eventually.
Yukara
like
was
his
at that
clock.
tournament.
Sorry?
Yeah. Apparently they had made clear that there was no additional time of 60. Magnus arrived late. So the lesson, don't arrive late to your round. Queen A7, Queen D7, I think, is what Nepo's in the process of realizing. Nothing there. You're going to lose a minor piece if you grab on A5. He has to accept it. I feel like he maybe is having a hard time accepting that the likeliest outcome in this endgame is going to be a draw, but you really have no way to keep the queens on the board.
Yeah, he's trying to keep the tension, of course, and the pressure and so on. But as you said, there's just no option. I just wanted to point out that Ding, he's got this 3.14. Yeah, it's like the pi on his clock. This is quite a nice nice nuance there.
Long day. Nice. Yeah.
Not sure that's on his mind right now. I mean, playing the first game of the World Championship match, being under pressure for so long.
Oh, of course. Yeah, he's rehearsing the amount of digits that he knows, like 3.14159. That's all I know. Hey.
Yeah, if Jan drops down to 1 minute 59 seconds, we will have quite a lot of pi digits on the camera there.
Oh yeah.
I don't think it's going to happen though. With Jan,
that's the maximum you can have on the clock.
Yes.
Is there any chance he leaves the queen up b8? No, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I think you should be aware of knight c5 and knight d3. I mean, it's all the same until the knight comes in via c5 to d3. Then it's not going to be the same. Then suddenly b2 is hanging and it's time to take over. So I think all the endgames, they look to me similar as long as the knight stays passive inside black's territory.
Mm-hmm.
He's choosing the version, yeah. To me, it feels like, I don't know anymore, actually. I thought first knight on b7 is bad, but now I'm thinking maybe it's not. It's just as good there as anywhere else.
Yeah, I mean, there is a chance of a 7-hour game here. If the queens are traded, Jan's not going to let Ding get away that easy. And he's going to use a lot of that hour that he's going to get on move 40. So what is the likelihood that we get a marathon game 1? Anish, like, how insistent is Jan going to be on squeezing every last chance? I think pretty insistent, given that he knows earlier in this game he had excellent winning chances.
That is a good point. If you had nothing the entire game, you sort of were never excited. But if you had a big advantage at some point, it's hard for you to resign yourself to the thought that the game is going to be a draw. And I remember in the last tournament that Jan played, where I played as well, he was fine with grinding things out to the very end. He played long games, and I remember the game he had with Yesipenko. It was lasting. He was pushing it. It was a draw already for a long time, but he kept trying and trying and trying. So, yeah, I think Jan might just keep grinding this one out, but it's very solid for Black. Very solid.
Yeah, and now Black's next move, probably knight b7 on his own volition. I mean, the knight actually wants to go to b7, which is a polar opposite from the initial endgame that Jan could have gone into. And the difference is made entirely by the placement of Black's pawn, which is now on c4.
Yeah, I think Jan, he should... Oh, he went for knight d4.
Wait, so what if knight b7?
I think you want to stop knight c5, so you go bishop to e7, and then what if king to g8, right? So we go knight b7, bishop, I think, to e7.
That bishop is almost trapped after king. It is trapped after king f7.
Yeah, so wait, what is the idea? What is the idea of knight b7?
It couldn't be e5, could it?
What is...
Because then I think take and bishop d7 even might be some sort of a fortress. Okay, we're about to find out.
Yeah, let's see what's the point. e5 is... It's possible, I guess. It's not what I expected.
Just feels like Jan is losing the thread here. This is a dumb question, but after bishop e7, king g8...
No, e5. That's the point. Yeah, that was the point, yes. Now, if you take everything, the d pawn is kind of weak, but maybe knight e6, and then knight c5. I'll move the bishop. I'll have knight b7, I have king e6. I'll move bishop to g6. Knight d7. Yeah,
Two
well,
more moves
I think,
until time control.
I think taking the bishop on d6 is just very risky for black.
And
It's just very
Nepo
risky.
trying to follow your advice. Pose questions at the most inconvenient moment. This is the last chance you have to pose questions. Ding
That's
with
why he
2
did it.
minutes to make 2 moves. Yep.
That's why he did it, and that's why he went for knight d4 e5, because this is the only way to actually make Ding take a decision.
Mm-hmm.
Nice, nice. I think white doesn't risk here anything, I would guess. I mean, I'm certain about that. Even in a position like that, even if you lose the e-pawn, with a knight against bishop, you can build a fortress. You can bring the king to f4, put a knight on e3, and just wait forever. So Jan doesn't risk anything, and he's asking Ding the final question. He's saying, Ding, this is my only question to you, the best question I got. I hope for a better one, but this is all I got, so answer it now.
And he's got now 1 minute and 20 seconds to answer that question. He's definitely calculating knight takes d6, ed, bishop d7, trying to figure out, does he have a fortress there? White even has the move b4 in that position. Very tricky. You can't take on Passant.
Without fe, yeah? That's a good one. I didn't realize. You were talking about knight d6, ed, bishop d7 without taking fe5. That makes sense. Because the king then doesn't have this path towards f4.
Although white has f5 and knight e6.
Ooh, that's
Nasty.
scary.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Doesn't
King G8.
take, which
It's
is
too
probably the
risky.
simplest option.
King g8. Yeah, I think I wouldn't take. Such high pressure situation, so much at stake, so little, like you're not going to win anyway. So why it's a huge risk to take. You don't need to take. Just keep the status quo. King g8 is classy. Very classy.
Does white have one more question to pose? This is white's 40th move. But remember, black has to make his 40th move, folks, for that time to add. You can see white's clock has been adjusted. Ding with one more move to make.
Bishop d7, I think, is that move, no? Bishop d7 looks pretty neat to me. Because king f7, you allow it check. Bishop d7, e6, you can take, and then you take here. You go bishop d7 first, then you go king f7. Bishop d7, the only question I have is what about f5, but then you can take a knight c5, knight d3. Yeah, bishop d7 played. I like it.
Great call. Wow.
And it
that
looks like
is time control.
Yeah. And this is the opposite of what we were talking about. Now it happened that he just reached the time control and he just solved his last problem and everything worked out for Ding. So this can also happen, and this is actually what happened. Should be a draw now.
What defense for Ding, and just crazy. I mean, Nepo with 0 advantage here. White's not better in this endgame. It's not even that you can nominally torture your opponent. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think this is draw for territory. And now you actually can offer a draw because move 40 has been made.
Yeah, but this is a direct consequence of what Jan has tried to put maximum pressure and ask that last question. But the problem with that is if the question gets the right answer, then that's it. So Jan, of course, he definitely did exploit his advantage here. It was back and move 29 here, where he had lots of very interesting options. In particular, I think grabbing this pawn was very promising. I don't know if it's winning, probably not, but it's definitely a good opportunity. And what he has now, the question he asks with this knight d4 e5, that's not too difficult for a player like Ding. He basically just brings the king back to the center, and yeah, it's very little left here. White pawn structure is ugly now. Look at this hole on g4. He cannot create a passed pawn. The e5 pawn is a passed pawn, but it's just completely blocked. Light square blockade here. Knight on b7, ready to jump via c5 whenever the bishop leaves. Simply a very comfortable position. I think it's just a draw. Indeed, I don't think he'll offer it. He'll probably make a few moves, but yeah, it's I don't see any other outcome here being likely.
And as you pointed out, e6 fails tactically. Black plays bishop takes e6, and the bishop on d6 loses its supporter. So the knight on b7 goes from, villain to hero. It is now a key cog in Black's defensive machine, and we are very confident that the first game is going to end in peace. But the game is not over, and Jan is going to take some time and see if he can figure out some way to keep the now very small flame of his initiative alive. And that affords us a good opportunity to take our post-time control break. But before we do that, we wanted to remind you that if you dream of playing in the FIDE World Championship, and well, who doesn't? Well, chess.com is going to make your dreams come true. Kind of. You can now challenge both world champion contenders in bot form. Ding Liren and Nepomniachtchi bots are available right now at chess.com/play/computer. So head over there and let us know if you can beat Nepo and Ding, the computer version. Use !FWC bots, all one word, !FWC bots in the chat for more information. Face off against Nepo and Ding and other chess.com exciting bots. Well, we will be back with more exciting action from round 1 of the FIDE World Championship in just a couple of minutes. Stay tuned.
Some of you may remember when Puzzle Rush launched. It blew the chess world up, and it happened literally right in time for the World Chess Championship in 2018. And all those pieces just came together of like, and it was just awesome to see. Of course, it was excited. It was a new feature, which we hadn't done in years, and it was a really good one. And we're like, we like grew chess. We're done. Like, how cool is that?
I remember the word saying, like, guys, like after it came down early 2019, like, we all need to reset. Let's think about how we're going to add more features. What could maybe be something close to Puzzle Rush again, because we are never going to see growth like that for chess again. In 2018 Puzzle Rush, because the other thing that serendipitously went was the World Championship, our first feature in 3 years. God, I get anxiety. I know. It was our first feature. Like, those were the dark years that Eric and I joke about. There were tears during that time. It was hard. It was tough, but then like, here comes Puzzle Rush, here comes the World Championship, and here comes a fateful dinner where I had Queenies. Shout out to you, Hikaru. Take me to that small restaurant, the Isle of Man, the British Isles, because Hikaru picks it, because Hikaru's a bit of a foodie, for those who don't know. And that was the dinner where I told Hikaru that I thought he could be the ninja of chess, and that maybe if he gave streaming a chance, he might be surprised. I spent 2.5 hours explaining what was the online content ecosystem to Hikaru and Sunil. And Hikaru embraces streaming partly because Puzzle Rush was such a fun feature to stream. Sort of not the, I don't want to say the tipping point, because there were so many incredible streamers who were committing to what would become the future of what we now know is like this incredible ecosystem online. The chess bras were like the OGs of committing to it, you know, at least as far as having a fully focused Twitch brand, right? And there were so many others, but we all knew, and Eric Hansen and I had talked a lot at the time, like we knew like the category needed a Hikaru, and we knew that it was going to be something that was going to take us to the next level. But I think partly the reason Hikaru committed is because it was so easy and fun because of Puzzle Rush. Like, that was it. And then the World Championship viewers, we were rating the chess bras and Hikaru every single day with peak viewership for the chess category. And it was like, the chess world peaked. Yeah. It peaked the end of 2018. That was what you asked about, right? We're talking, if that's all we're talking about.
That was it. That was the high point of chess.
That was it.
But I do remember the first time Magnus played on our site. I remember that feeling. And I remember the goosebumps going on my arms of like, oh my goodness, that's like, yeah, okay. I mean, there's no better chess player in the world who's gonna ever play, well, maybe in the future one day, but that was like the thing. I remember the moment where I was like, oh my gosh, we have a grandmaster on our site. He's like kicking everyone's ass. He's just winning all of his games. What super strong grandmaster is this?
It was not a secret.
It was not.
Twist ending.
It was somebody cheating. And we're like, oh my gosh, how are we going to deal with this? It's hard to explain the whole process, but immediately right then, we're like, this is going to be make or break for our future. We have to invest here. And immediately started hiring like statistician, built an amazing team around this, and we've invested so much time, money, and resources just to protect this game that we love. We immediately knew how dangerous this could be, and remember that very first cheater was such a painful experience to see. So it's been at the core of what we've done, and it's challenging because it's not preventable.
What is a chess dynasty? Unceasing dominance, move after move, again and again and again.
We have a resignation, we have history.
He is the 5-time FIDE World Chess Champion.
But a chess dynasty can also be cruel. It forces most to defer their dreams until next time. If there is a next time.
It's losing.
Oh my God, did he just blow?
Yeah, he did.
I'm blown away. The game is over.
As the chess world turns to Kazakhstan, the Magnus Carlsen dynasty is set to close. The FIDE World Championship is finally up for grabs. For two chess superstars lying in wait, until next time is now. Jan Nepomniachtchi has methodically done what he needed to do to get another shot at the title.
That's your 2022 FIDE Canada champion, and just an absolutely stunning performance from Jan.
The pressure to seize the moment this time rests heavily upon him. Liren knows firsthand what the end of this dynasty means, an unexpected chance to make history. Can China's best turn his good fortune into eternal fame?
Liren has secured second place here.
Amazing. What a big last round win for Ding.
The legacy of this championship spans across centuries. It reads from the names of chess giants. For the first time in a decade, a new name will raise the trophy and be etched into chess history. It's the 2023 FIDE World Championship. Whose name will next be called champion?
We are 4 hours into round one of the FIDE World Championship between Jan Nepomniachtchi and Liren, live from Astana, Kazakhstan, where Jan Nepomniachtchi is not looking too thrilled. Time control has just been made. An hour added to each player's clock after move 40 has been carried out. Grandmaster Nishigiri, this has been a frustrating last 10, 12 moves for Jan Nepomniachtchi, who has watched his entire advantage slip away and turn to dust.
Yeah, absolutely. And he started with a big missed opportunity at one point, and then he had this potentially slightly better endgame, but he chose not to try and stabilize the position, not to try and bring the king to the center and slowly try to eventually maneuver around and go for something small. Instead, he put some pressure with this quick knight d4 e5 idea, hoping for Ding to somehow collapse. But Ding just replied in a very calm, collected way, brought his king back, brought his bishop here, and just solved all the problems.
Just a light square blockade, and Nepo, I mean, his face says it all. Levy says, Nepo, looking at the board the way I look at the last donut. Indeed, Jan kind of coming to terms with the inevitable, and he knows that with 56 minutes, there's just no way that... I mean, and Ding has more than one drawing option. Even knight c5, I would imagine, solves the problems concretely. Although maybe
I was thinking about that move. I was thinking about that move as well. Also, c5 comes to mind. c5, e6, bishop c, bishop. But that's maybe not so accurate. Bishop c8. But yeah, you're right. Knight c5, king of, maybe king of 7 is the easiest. Just king of 7. Bring the king in.
Is there also a weird fortress like knight c5, bishop a5, f5? How does white make progress? Maybe unnecessary.
That. He played that, by the way. Knight c5 is played. Yeah, fortress. You mean you want to Because you cannot play knight e6, yeah, just yet. But the question is, what is my move after f5?
Yeah, but it's...
I don't think you need that. You can also bring the king to f7 as well. And then this knight is going to get active here and collect this pawn.
Yeah. And draw offers, by the way, they are allowed after move 40. So at this point, it would probably be Jan who would offer the draw, just because of the arc that the game has taken. And nominally, he's still the one pushing. Bishop takes a5 played.
I guess so, especially now he's collected the pawn, so he is the one up a pawn. But I'm not sure at all if he's any better. Even just takes and king f7, let's say. Also, I think that's just very, very drawish at this point.
Yeah,
just
the pawn is immobilized. Knight d3 is coming.
Here. Yeah, completely fine, I think. Yeah, definitely a bullet dodge there by Ding. And speaking of Gotham Chess, who showed up in comments, I think he already started recording his recap. To be honest, trying to be to be early there.
Yeah, the result of the game basically no longer in question. And obviously, there's a psychological battle that will have to be fought by Jan, and this is where your team of seconds and supporters really comes in. And this is where they prove their mettle. This is where they make you see the positives. And there are positives to take away from Jan. I think his general approach of, as you said, taking more risk and perhaps just having more fun in the opening, to put it in a very primitive way, has paid dividends. And the fact that he didn't extract the most out of the winning chances that he had doesn't take anything away from that.
Yeah. It is both a positive and a negative. I mean, the fact that you gain something in the opening, it's great. At the same time, I don't know how many of these ideas does he have. Does he have like 5 more? Maybe. But maybe that was his best. Maybe that was his best idea, and maybe he doesn't have so much more against the anti-martial. Maybe now he'll have to switch to, I don't know, the Italian opening, and maybe there's no more such great ideas. So nowadays, especially, it's so hard to find these promising ideas like the one that he played today. Maybe he has many. Maybe he doesn't have many. We'll see. Definitely, I think definitely if he, and it seems like this game is ending in a draw. If it will end in a draw, I think Ding will be the one taking all the positives. He really dodged the bullet there for sure.
Dodged a bullet and dodged the opening bullet, and Hikaru suspects a draw for coming on the next move, very likely. FE, king f7. Ding is... The speed with which he's playing demonstrates his total confidence in the fact that the game will be decided very shortly. Yeah, Nepo's next move could even be e6, accompanied to the draw for.
Oh, like that, yeah. Okay, I can take it with a bishop,
and then go like knight.
Can I tease you there a bit with black? Like e6, bishop takes, knight c6, knight d3. Because it's ugly what you have done there. So
that's the worst feeling, when you have the draw in your pocket and suddenly you realize that you have messed it up to the point where your opponent is now playing for the win. I mean, plenty of games like that.
Yeah, but I mean, if black plays for a win here, it's probably not because you messed it up. It's just because black can afford to sort of, like, it's anyway equal, so black might as well keep making moves. I don't know. I mean, bishop c7 is a move as well, I guess. If knight d3, then maybe I can push the b pawns to b4, maybe, or maybe knight a4 first. Yeah, I don't know who has to be more accurate here. I don't quite understand it. We can we can try to. Yeah, we can try to see.
There's also there were some ideas with f5, fe, knight f3,
FE,
but here
yes, but
garbage.
No longer, I think. No longer, yeah, because the bishop had to be on c7.
Right, you had to be making contact with the pawn.
Yeah. So is it? Yeah, I don't know. Like, it all happens so fast. I'm not sure who is playing for what. What about bishop? Let's say bishop to b4,
knight d3,
and then e6 takes.
Threatening knight d8.
Threatening knight d8, but of course it's not. I mean, it's not a big deal. You just move the bishop back. Is white running some danger? Well,
the bishop guard. I think it must be a fortress.
Yeah, knight back to d4, king to f2. Yeah,
G3.
It's a fortress. Everything is protected. No entry points by both sides. This is one way to make a draw. Your e6 suggestion is just different. Yeah, e6 also gives black a chance to take with the knight and just go home.
Or the move itself could be accompanied also with a draw for, just to make sure Ding doesn't get any thoughts in his head.
I think that's a question, like what gives him the thoughts? I think the draw offer gives the thoughts. Sometimes it's better not to offer a draw if you want the draw, because by offering it you show vulnerability. So it works both ways.
Yeah, you show that you're suddenly you have the tiniest inkling of worry in your mind. So Ding, he dodges the bullet with black. He has white tomorrow. He struggled with white in Tata Steel. Do you think that tournament is going to sit on him, or do you think that because he had to hide essentially all of his opening preparation, that will not hurt his confidence with the white pieces at all?
No, I think I think after this game he's forgotten about his entire life, and now all he remembers is the game one of the World Championship match. Like before the start, yes, Tata Steel, everything, his youth in China, everything that has happened in his life, it was all there. Now I think game one's been played, and that's what's impactful. And I think the negative takeaway for Ding is that he has seen in this game that he got hit again with the black pieces. Not only did he get hit with something he didn't expect, he started thinking earlier, but his response was not very good. It got worse. Then he got outplayed at some point. He was in quite some serious danger, and he showed vulnerability. So that is, of course, a small negative takeaway for Ding. But I think much more important is that he managed to defend and at the end gets this half a point. But still, if there's something negative to take away, there's definitely that.
And I think something that is easy to forget, this knight c3, knight d5 idea. If Nepo had uncorked that, Ding probably would have seen it. Let's not overstate the case and claim that he would have taken on d4 and it would have been 1-0. But even without it, the position remained very, very dangerous. So this almost feels like a different reality, a different lifetime. But it was, in fact, the same game.
Yeah, I just briefly pointed out, we speak about this nice little tactic that was there. But to be fair, it was not forced. After h3, black had this strong reply like rook f8, and it's just only slightly worse for black.
But how findable is this move?
I think Ding would find it by elimination. I think you also at this point in the game he had more than an hour, like 1.5 hour on the clock, and he's a very good calculator. He would just find queen d4, knight d5 very quickly, and he would look at knight e6, bishop e6, bishop h5, realize it's all bad, then look at alternatives, and rook e8 would eventually come. It would take him a long time. He would need to verify it. He would have found it in that situation, and the game would have continued. So. Again, even later, also Jan didn't have this. He didn't have like a clear-cut things, but there was definitely more to it than what he has now. Because what he has now is, what he has now is just a draw. Bishop b4 first.
He's chosen this move, bishop b4, knight d3, and maybe bishop d6.
Oh yeah, knight b2 and. So we speak knight d3, bishop d6, knight probably can take on b2, right?
Yeah, there's no threat. Because the light square is under black control.
And then f5, maybe it forces a draw even more. fe, knight f3, no, bishop f5, knight e5, king e6, so it's... Wow. I think that e6 line we showed, so knight d3, e6.
e6.
Takes, bishop d7, knight d4, knight b2, that was nothing. King f2, king d3, and g3, that was just a draw.
Ironically, with Ding's habit of not coming to the board, even during his move, he's not allowing Nepo to offer a draw. Nepo has the mannerism of someone who is about to.
Very much so.
Yeah, he seems like he's ready to offer the draw. Ding he's snacking away. He's opening up some water. This is a different Ding than the one who was wearing his hoodie, cuddled on that chair, deep in thought. He knows that this is in the bag now.
It was a jacket, I believe, with a hoodie, yeah? Or is that? Yeah, basically, I think I'm like worried. Is it cold there? Maybe it's cold there.
Yeah.
but not cold enough to make him go sit at the boards. So
I've never seen, this amount of somebody with too much time on their hands will probably count the percentage of time that Ding spent away from the board. I would bet a silver dollar is probably, among the record setters in terms of World Championship games.
I think really the game changer was last World Championship. I think Magnus mentioned it as well. Like, he was also surprised. Like, the amount of time Nepo was away from the board, that was unprecedented. And now suddenly Ding took over that habit of him. And as Gotham Chess mentioned in chat, he's just ghosting Nepo.
And Nepo himself has been at the board quite a bit as he gets up from the board, of course. And probably to find Ding to offer a draw.
He's running after him. Come, I want to offer my draw. Please, he's running, trying to find Ding to offer
Enough
the draw.
already. This is funny. I wonder, what are the options? He's going to the bathroom, obviously. Although, if he needed to go to the bathroom, he would have gone immediately after he moves. I think he's going to find Ding.
Yeah, sometimes
this is a hilarious scene.
I've had this experience. Okay, I think they have separate bathrooms, separate resting areas, by the way. But I've had this experience sometimes. Okay, so you make a move. So your opponent has already left to the bathroom. Then you make a move. You go to the bathroom. You meet the opponent in the bathroom because it's like a normal tournament, public bathroom. And then I feel like, should I tell him what I played, like in the bathroom, like washing hands, like, by the way, I played Rook E8, or like, should I? It's like, but it's different there because now they have each a separate restroom. That's what you get. Yeah. Once you become a challenger, they upgrade you. You don't have to share bathrooms with people. You get your own restroom.
Yeah,
your own snacks.
It is old school to share the movie. Like I remember I was playing an old American international master, Joseph Bradford, very old classic old school chess player, and I was walking back from the bathroom, and he was going to the bathroom, and he just said F4, and I'm like, whoa. And then I quickly understood that this is what they used to do in the old days, because a few times, maybe this is just me, but I would come back from the board and I would actually have a hard time. It would be my move, and I would have a hard time actually for a second determining what move my opponent made, especially if it's like H3 or like, was the pawn always there?
On the topic of returning to find a move, like that was the most epic story was told to me by Svidler. I think he played against Jan Timman. I think it's a team championship. And at some point they reach move 40, so Svidler leaves away from the board. He is up in exchange, but position is dead drawn. So he goes to the bathroom. He comes back to the board. Position was drawn before, and he finds himself with no opponent. Jan Timman has already left. The score sheet is signed. Jan Timman has lost, so Svidler has won, and he's wondering what has happened. Basically, my opponent has resigned in a drawn position and left before I even came back. And what happened was that Jan Timman, he touched the wrong piece after moving, which he would lose, without even making that move. He resigned.
Wow.
So there's like the move made on the board, and
so he didn't know that he had touched. He has no way of knowing that he had touched the wrong piece.
There is no way the Svidler could have known, but some people had. Okay, Jan Timman, also honorable, legendary player. He's not going to take the move. He's not going to play a move with a different piece. He already touched the piece. Let alone maybe there are other people who've seen it, but Svidler didn't see it. So there was a remarkable case, like a drawn position, but he was so like he resigned, and he was probably so miserable that he just wanted to leave and not even not even see himself lose the game and see his opponents. So it was kind of a remarkable story by Peter. Just you go to the bathroom with after move 40, it's a draw. You come back and the opponent is gone. You won. Congratulations! Like, remarkable.
Insane. I mean, there's obviously a lot of stories of premature resignation, and there's stories of touching the wrong piece. But for those to be put together, it's and while somebody is in the bathroom, that confluence of events is quite the rarity. That's
you can't make that up. I mean, I heard it from Peter himself. So if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure it was Peter Svidler. So yeah, it is. He probably didn't make that one up. It's a crazy story. Yeah.
It is frustrating when you're trying to resign. Your opponent is walking. You just want to end the game. But this match, of course, is not going to end anytime soon. We wanted to remind you folks that this is a marathon, not a sprint. There's a couple of rule changes compared to the Carlsen Nepo match. In particular, there are no consecutive colors. Colors always will alternate. Nobody will have 2 white games or 2 black games in a row. And the second big change is that there are more rest days. There will be 7 rest days over 2 weeks of play. That is, there will be no more than 2 days of chess in a row. The final game, if necessary, remember, this is a best of 7, best of 14. So technically, all you really need are 8 games. But if this goes down to the last game, it will be played on April 29th. If that last game ends in a draw and the match ends 7-7, then a tiebreaker consisting of Rapid and then Blitz and Armageddon. If those are tied, will be played the following day on April 30th. April 30th, 21 days from now. What is the longest event you've played? Just sort of off the top.
Must be the Vaikanze.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, but I'm thinking the Vaikanze is 13 days. The candidates is 14 rounds, so must be the candidates tournament, because I played 2 of them. That must be the longest. But back in the day, like the Soviet Union, back in those days, they were playing some crazy stuff. Also, these candidates tournaments.
Yep.
Candidates with 4, they play each other 4 times. That was also the case.
Quadruple round robin.
Yeah. So how else was that? I mean, multiplication of 4 is really difficult. So yeah, a lot of rounds. And also I think some Soviet championships were also lasting. Also, they had the adjournments that they would stop the game by move 40 and resume it on the special day later on. You had to schedule that in as well. And of course, a lot of rest days because it is tiring. So these events, they lasted months, I think. And okay, Karpov Kasparov that you mentioned at the start of the show as well. So those
pulling an all-nighter to analyze was totally new, because not everybody had the luxury of having Petrosian and Tal on call to analyze your games. That's, when the Soviets were playing world championship matches, they had an army of GMs ready to analyze your game while you slept. If you were a plebeian GM like my coach, Lepsakis, he was telling me that countless all-nighters were pulled trying to pull out a draw out of some endgame. Then you have to resume the game and then play another game. So, we think the good old days were relaxed with, the GMs with cigars dangling out of their mouths and, just kind of waving their arms around. No, the schedule in those tournaments was absolutely grueling. Speaking of grueling, Ding still has not arrived at his board. Is he deciding between knight d3 and knight a4? Is he contemplating the meaning of life? Is he choosing his restaurant for dinner? There we go.
Yeah, I think the knight d3, knight a4 is the option I select here. If I have to bet on something.
Yeah. And usually him coming back to the board means he's ready to make a move because he's done his thinking in the rest area.
Well, I can do a little bit more thinking there. Plenty of time on the clock.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just not sure there's a difference. I think knight d3 feels more normal. But it's listed the same thing, just a more normal route, yeah? D3 is kind of a central square. Nice one.
Speaking of, I chose the restaurant example for a reason. One of my favorite is the wrong word because I don't mean to imply that it's funny. Vichy during the Vichy Carlsen match, you probably know exactly what I'm about to say. Vichy got a slightly annoying question that resembled were you actually trying to calculate a certain variation at a certain time? And this is just very classy. It's very Vichy because it wasn't angry. It's just the most Vichy thing ever. He says, "No, I was thinking what to eat tonight." I just thought that was hilarious.
It was very, very good passive-aggressive press conference there.
Yes.
Because I think he lost as well. The journalist was like, "So Vichy, you spent here 1 hour. What were you thinking about?"
What does one think about in a position where Black has 2 queens? And that was that Nimzo Indian game where Carlsen promoted on move 21 or something.
Yeah, and I was just thinking about that for dinner. No, it was some press conferences are quite legendary. I don't know if we're probably gonna have one today as well after this game. We'll see what is in store for us. But a lot of the stuff is really hilarious. You've got all sorts of different journalists from the chess world, also from the outside. The players are in all kinds of different moods sometimes, and all kind of stuff happens there. It's a competition of its own, the press conferences.
Mm-hmm. How hard is it? And I've had my share of press conferences in the U.S. Championship, but that's it. You've had press conferences all throughout your career. How hard is it to especially after a very painful game, to get yourself together and explain your thoughts? Is that just annoying beyond words, or do you get used to that? I mean, you don't
Actually,
lose.
that's
almost
actually
ever,
interesting.
but-
No, but it's actually an interesting question because I think for many people it's like therapeutical to discuss the game that they've lost because and I think I'm also the kind of player who wants to take a good look at that game and to put it behind me. And in order to put it behind me, I need to really look at exactly what happened and where I lost, why I lost, what I lost. And talking about it is, I don't think the press conference is the part that hurts you. The part that hurts you is that you lost. And I think a press conference, in my case, could only be of help because you want to withdraw and hide yourself under a rock or whatever and not show up for breakfast. You don't want to look at anybody. You want to be kind of self-destructive after you lose. But going out to see people and confronting your loss and talking about it with other people listening, I think that I think for me would have a positive effect on my well-being, sort of. So I don't mind the press conference after I lose. I just mind losing. So it's a different thing.
That's the root. That's the root problem. I agree.
Yes, exactly. You shouldn't. You shouldn't blame the press conference for the bad mood. It was the loss. I mean, that was
misappropriation of blame. I think there's a term for it. And of course, Kasparov and Karpov, as Ikara reminds us, played their share of. They played hundreds of games across their careers against each other. Most famously, the 1984-85 match. We mentioned it earlier. It was postponed. But that isn't even the most famous thing about the match. The most famous thing is that Garry Kasparov was down. This was a first to 6 wins. And that match is a big reason why this system was eliminated, because after having 5 wins to 0, Garry Kasparov, through a series of draws, gained 3 wins, and ultimately the match lasted 5 months and was canceled because you could read about it for hours. And let's watch the game, because I think we're going to get a draw for literally any second. Unless Ding plays knight takes b2 here. And there will be no draw.
No. But then the game would also not last very long, I think, after 98.
No, either way.
Yeah. No. Of course, yeah. He spent enough time now to notice the threat of 98 check. And I think bishop d7 is coming. And judging, especially from the body language, it's clear that Jan has no hope for anything here. He doesn't have any intention here either.
Yeah, and the body language has evinced a desire to offer a draw for a long time, but the draw offer it's not actually come from either player.
Yeah, but I think, again, it's a psychological... so first of all, even if you want to draw, if you offer it, and your opponent will now, let's say, refuse, you still didn't get the draw, and then you've showed to your opponent that, you thought because the only reason you offer a draw is you think that there is a chance you can lose, right? Or or it's a dead draw, because...
Or you're hungry.
But I think this offering a draw is just something you just don't want to do very often, and the same with for both players. So they're just not offering it. And what should happen is either a move repetition or a trade of knights. I mean, we could see a move repetition somehow. I can't really construct one just yet, but the players are really good at this. They might manage.
I always like to share this story. I mean, I played a tournament where draw offers were forbidden in Corsica. There's a famous open tournament, and you just kind of exchange eye contact. I was playing a game with Bacro, and we exchange eye contact, and we start playing bishop b7 to a8, and he plays bishop b2 to c3, and we kind of smile, and that means, okay, let's finish this thing up.
Yeah, except these two players, they don't want to smile to each other very much as the upcoming month. The other one is trying to destroy their entire live stream. So you're not going to be like, let's, very nice.
Very funny, yeah. I missed the winning chances that could have put me ahead in a world championship match. Ha.
Sure, exactly. So it's a little less friendly there, but I think both players are here. I mean, honestly, I was just thinking about one thing here. The white king could kind of leak in through these squares, potentially, and that could potentially be an issue. But there are multiple ways of preventing it. I mean, f5 is a bit ugly, but it's possible.
Can I show you a funny line? King f3, bishop c8, king e4, bishop b7, king f5, g6.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is also possible. I was thinking of a more productive infiltration than that, but
See, this is what I occupy my mind with. 6
no,
hours.
you have this. All these bullet scenarios are in your mind, and probably
Can't
this is how
help
a
it.
game of yours would end with the black pieces, possibly against me. But yeah, this.
Wait, how do you?
Yeah.
How do you stop it?
I mean, f5 is possible, and if king e3, you got this knight d1. This is a repetition I saw: knight d1, and then knight back. And
but what if I try knight d4 to f3? I play king e2 and then knight f3.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not. I don't like the look of f5. It's a very ugly move because I'm controlling these squares and these squares as well. And after f5, I weaken the dark square. I don't like f5. Is there another way to stop it? A more elegant one, perhaps?
Well, Nepo has the same question.
We'll find out. I think we'll find out.
King f3 has just been played. Ding seems like he's checking his score sheet. He's like, when can I offer a draw again?
Yeah, because that is even after you do all that, I put a knight here. It's not like it's the end of the world, right? I mean, I have g3, I have knight f2, and I'll have counterplay. So I'm not saying that this is decisive. I mean, this is like, if we talk about all kinds of random things, there's still one thing to talk about in this position left, and that is this potential king infiltration. 5, you said king e2, yeah.
But still, even there, like once white plays knight f3, black can meet that with knight d3, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can start with knight d3 after king e2, and then king e3 you want. And then I have knight 1 probably. No, I mean, I think the margin is enormous here, to be honest.
You need about 8 moves in a row. You can't even construct. It's hard to even construct a winning position. Like maybe with the king on b6 here. Would this be winning? Probably with the king on b6, it's winning. Here.
Probably not.
Although still not.
I mean, probably not.
Clear cut.
No, I mean,
you don't think so?
I don't think it's winning. Okay, maybe, but I would have counterplay knight d3, then knight f2, then knight e4. I'll go g5 somewhere.
Yep.
Okay, I mean, anyway, that's a hypothetical that is completely irrelevant. How do you get the king to b6 in one go?
No, it's like that famous story. This is apocryphal. I don't think it's a real story, but supposedly it's like Tarash and Shigorn were playing, and one of them was known for refusing drawers in dead drawn positions. So they got a completely locked position, and one of them like removes his own bishop from the board. And the point is that it's still a draw, and that proves the point. And then they lived happily ever after.
Yeah, no, it's a nice story. I heard about it as well. Some kind of a locked position with a bishop, and the guy offers a draw. The Tarash refused, or the way around. Tarash offered a draw, and then so the guy refused, and then he removes the bishop and says, "I offer it again," or something like this.
Right.
But we are not there yet. It's not that close. We have these two, some space here through which the king can pass, but at the same time, I wonder if f5 is the best or not. I don't want to make this move, but if I look at the position, I think logically that seems to be the easiest way. But it feels a bit wrong. But maybe it's the easiest way. I don't know.
Yeah.
What can happen? What can happen? King e2?
Let's say king.
Let's say
I thought maybe king e3 to try to gain a tempo, but
yeah. Oh yeah. Sorry, you are correct. That was the idea, and that's what you meant. Yeah. Now you will get.
Yeah. Now king e2 and knight f3.
Do we go knight d3? King e3.
E3.
Bishop c6.
Knight
d4. I mean, it starts to get a bit nice for
yeah. Oh yeah, knight d4.
Maybe g3.
Then bishop back to d7.
Knight g3 you take. Knight d4. Yeah. Bishop back, exactly. I mean, this has to be this is quite clean, no? I guess.
Yeah, I'm thinking about a crazy winning attempt. No, it's
knight
not even worth mentioning. I was thinking
g3.
Oh no, for black, I mean after knight d4, I was thinking bishop takes g2,
and
then knight takes b5, g5. But it's actually not the easiest thing to prevent. By the way.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, it's, suddenly we created so much life in this lifeless position.
creativity is the mother of invention. I think is that how it goes. You know, we have to manufacture interesting ideas, so we really scrape the bottom of the barrel for whatever we can find.
And we're getting paid for this stuff, so we have to.
Yeah,
but,
absolutely.
So do the players, but they don't have to. You know, that's the difference. The players can just do the uncreative stuff.
Ding has taken half of his extra time.
Yeah,
the thing is, you've got another 15 minutes on move 60.
The engine, because I had enough. I turned on the engine. The engine actually agrees that F5 is actually the zeros, and the other stuff is the 005, the smallest of advantages for white. So this is the easiest way to go, indeed, even though it's a little bit ugly. But even like the point is that even King E4, like this is also nothing, of course. And if you go G3, I will target that pawn as well some way.
Knight F2, Knight H1.
Yeah, I was thinking about that exactly. I was just thinking about Knight H1 here.
Yeah, GMTA, Ray Mines. Wow.
Yeah, it's a matter of taste here at this point, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Ding, he doesn't want to take another 30 minutes on this move. I mean, then Jan will legitimately start playing for a win.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. When you have the position that it is kind of drawn, pretty obviously, but your opponent also looks like he wants to draw. And then you have some doubts. Now, the question is, how do you deal with it? Do you play quickly, or do you try to take your time? Because both are a little dangerous. If you play too fast, you run the risk of making an inaccuracy, making your task legitimately difficult. At the same time, if you think too long, you might still not find a clean way, but you've shown your opponent that you are worried. And I've seen a lot of games go wrong because of that. Like, opponent has no hope, but because you think so long, the opponent is like, why is he not making a draw? And then some point he's like, is he really worried? And then he starts thinking like, okay, maybe I have something actually. So this works both ways. You cannot think too long here. So I think Ding should take his couple of minutes, like 5 minutes maybe, and make that move. Be it F5 or G6, just make something.
Yeah, and I mean, he understands, let's not forget this is the World Championship. He knows what he's been through. So I think Ding, he knows this is the last hurdle, and if he crosses it successfully, he'll have a very pleasant evening, reminiscing about the bullet that he dodged today.
Yeah, talking with Richard about
yeah, about what he's going to play next game, like C4 and G4. Richard Report has reined it in a little bit when it comes to his repertoire. A couple of years ago, it was like he would play C4, E3, and G4. I mean, you probably remember that phase.
Yeah, there are three phases. So very young Richard Rapport, I don't know if you know, but at some point I was preparing for him for the second phase of his, but I looked up his first phase. So very young Richard Rapport, only one E4, only main lines, extremely well and narrow prepared, like your classical kind of well-prepared kind of guy who is just playing like one thing all the time and like well-prepared in that. And then at some point there was a shift from one day to the other. The whole E4 thing stopped and it started to be only the wicked stuff. Like the D4, Knight C3, this reverse Chigorin, all sorts of C4, Knight C3, G4. Only the weakest stuff was there. And now there is the third phase where he does both. Sometimes he goes for the main lines, sometimes he does the wicked stuff. And I think that is actually suiting him very well, just to be this balanced player who sometimes plays a solid Petrov and sometimes does some crazy, Spanish where he sacrifices a piece on G4, like he did against MVL and the Grand Prix. Ding, meanwhile, made the choice. Knight D3, it's a more classy choice. This move F5 is ugly. It's clean, but it's ugly. Knight D3 is the more classy way to do it.
So what did we come up with against Knight D3, King E4 again?
I just thought to make waiting move, but the computer suggested very nice F5 as well.
Oh, and Knight F5, Knight F2. Or wait, is that the...
Oh, yeah, that's good enough. Oh, yeah, that's good enough. I mean, easily good enough.
Because King F3, you can play Bishop F5.
Yeah, this is so dead, yeah. The pawn is irrelevant. I can bring my bishop here and sit there, or wherever. F5, yes,
yeah,
is
it's
nice.
such a reassuring
5 is nice, and if you go here, I'll take here. So in fact, this is a better order, because after King E4, F5, you sort of, with black, you gain some time on this operation. You gain the tempo, actually. Nice. Good move. That's why it's there's the upside of taking time. You can nicely take your time and come up with something super accurate.
Yeah, and clearly he's seen f5 because that literally is the only move. And again, Jan is doing this lean back thing, you know, where he seems to be about to offer the draw. But you're right; they're waging the psychological war. Let's see. We do want to take a break, but let's wait for Jan's move because okay, every move I think a draw for is increasingly.
Yeah, I don't know
likely,
if you want to take a break. Like maybe we we just work hard and then we take a break for the entire day after it's over. Yeah, it's a question here.
Yeah, I mean I'm fine either way. Yeah, but Ding is back in the room. Ding is back in his restroom.
Okay, G3 Jan.
So again, Nepo, again, the look to the side, yeah, okay. Let's end the game here.
But one time I read his annotations to his win against Yuangi. One time he actually mentioned in his annotations, he said that he on purpose in the opening tried to appear as if he doesn't want anything, to confuse Yuangi into thinking that he doesn't want anything, and actually then to spring a surprise on him. Sometimes Jan's body language can be deceiving, but in this case, if you look at the position as well, I think he really doesn't want anything. I mean, it's not like he's hiding his devilish intentions. I think there's just nothing in there, and he just doesn't have much. After G3, I don't know. I mean, you can go F5. You can probably not go F5. I guess F5 is the easiest.
Oh yeah, F5 just boxes in. Although again, there's this whole King E3 monkey business.
No, the engine also suggests. I'm just looking at alternatives. This is actually very clean. This is a dead.
94.
Yeah, it's a dead draw. Yeah, F doesn't like F5, but probably F5 is the. Is it also okay F5? Oh, he's actually losing. That's funny.
Because the bishop runs out of
squares. Yeah, it's Tsungswang. Yes. Oh yeah, this is actually very interesting. It's very similar to this women candidates tournament game between Lei Tingzhe and Zhang Zhongyi. But that
was an amazing endgame.
Yeah, that was a draw, but this is not a draw actually. She won as well, but this is actually a Tsungswang. Because in that position, quite interesting. I'll show you the difference. In that position, this was a stalemate. But
if we could bring up an analysis board, just so we could show that end game.
Yeah.
As Jan Nepomniachtchi takes his time, so we'll take this opportunity to show. Could we maybe replay Anish through that line one more time?
Yeah. So we're talking about this line. We don't have to do this, but okay, this is a draw, and now we can sort of suicide with F5, try to stabilize the pawn structure, and then we have this position which is very similar to that game, except there are some details like this pawn is there, this pawn is there, and it's all kind of a little different. But this theme there was that you could go bishop e6. This was like a stalemate. King couldn't move. But here I've got these moves available to me.
C3 and B4 opens up some squares for the bishop, but I guess White's pawns are just too far advanced. Although it's never actually as easy as it looks to win those types of positions.
You mean this?
C3 takes B4. You actually can win either. Probably you should go to the king side. Like the only reason you're winning maybe is because of the G6 pawn, I think.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Without
for sure, because
pawns, it's a draw.
Because the A pawn is also of the wrong color. That would no, you're. I mean, after AB, I have to think if you are right in your statement, but you probably are. I am pretty sure you are.
Ultimately, I guess the idea is you go around.
Yeah, here, you're right. The easiest is you just go around and you collect. Yeah. But it is completely irrelevant because here I just made this move F5, cutting off the diagonal for the bishop. Right. Instead, I just go here and just wait, I guess. And then go back, and that's it. So knight c1, knight b3 is another way to do it. And is that what he did?
There he goes.
That's what he did. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, Ding.
Machine-like precision.
He doesn't like this f5 move. He finds it a bit ugly, so he wants to do without it. Understandable.
He goes again. There's a magnetic attraction to that chair. And Jan with that little half smile. There's a lot going on behind the curtains, but I've made an attempt as a commentator to not overestimate my ability to read body language, which is pitiful. I used to do way too much of that and claim for certain what this means and what that means. You don't know what any of it means. They could just be, they might not even know why they're making the facial expressions that they are.
Yes, so. And as a player, you also don't want to read too much into it. You do want to read some of that, but very often a player smiles because he had some very weird thought of what happened to him this morning. It has nothing to do with the game at all. Or and you suddenly start doubting your move because the guy remembered his breakfast. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's just impossible to predict what goes on behind the scenes. Knight b3.
King e3
is about to happen.
King e3 is also an attempt to show that he doesn't even want anything. Like, I'm not even entering with the king to d5. It's just, I'm just done.
Hold
with
your fire.
I'm just done with this game and just.
I come in peace.
Yeah, I come in peace. Exactly. It's the message.
Now watch him decline the trade with like knight e2 and then
come back. Yeah, after bishop f5. Yeah. But I mean, you should also not. Okay, I'm not going anywhere. But you should not, like. There's no point. No, I think he will make a bishop move here, like bishop d6, and takes, and that's it. Here you can afford to play f5, but you also need to.
Yeah, the game is about to end. Jan waiting for Ding to carry out knight b3.
A promising start, I have to say. I really like, as a professional, for me, like, the most interesting part is the opening, to be honest. Because unlike other tournaments, the players have spent so much effort, so much time, and they've had so much help of people and software and hardware and everything. And they really, they've done their best, and the motivation is the highest to come up with ideas. And I really like to watch the opening phases and see what ideas they brought. And today, the idea Jan brought to the table was really very interesting. Oh, just offered a draw. Yeah.
Yep. Handshake. Jan offered a draw. Ding took a second. Handshake has occurred. The first game of the 2023 FIDE World Championship has concluded in peace, but it was not a peaceful game. It was anything but a peaceful game. And Jan's